Okay, we're going to get started as soon as everybody's populated in. Looks like our numbers settling in. So let's go ahead and we'll reconvene the regular trustee board meeting. Madam Clerk, can you have a roll call here or do a roll call?
Trustee Moreno. I'll come back to him. Trustee Fong.
Here.
Trustee Henderson.
Here.
Trustee Hoffman.
Here.
Trustee Moreno.
Here.
Trustee Vela.
Here.
Trustee Veres.
Here.
And I see Trustee Moreno.
Yeah.
Student Trustee Martinez.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have quorum and we will kick off the meeting here. First, we're going to start with our flag salutes. And today, our student trustee Martinez will lead us in the flag salute. So student trustee, let me ask you to do this. You'll lead us in the flag salute. And if you want to make a few comments from the student perspective here right afterwards. I think we all got a chance to know you over the last few meetings, but it's been sort of our tradition in COVID to have our students kick off our meetings and say a few words here. So if you would lead us in the flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And just to reiterate, my name is Karima Martinez. I am the new student trustee. Just a little bit of a reintroduction for those that might not know me, or for those that might not have seen me at the previous Board of Trustee meetings. I am a third-year student with LACCD. I attend ELAC. I'm a political science major, and I've been working in the classroom at the state level and to be able to support students for 2 years now. I'm really proud, really excited, really happy to be able to support the students as much as I can with the support of the Board of Trustees for this coming academic year. We will be doing everything we can to ensure your safety and your comfort, and making the readjustment and the retransition back onto campus as smooth as possible. So the student perspective is something that obviously I will be taking into account, and I will not be, any of the decisions that I am making, I am of course going to be taking into consideration with the student. Please feel free to reach out to me, to talk to me. I speak English and Spanish, so los estudiantes que hablan más español, mi nombre es Karima Martínez, yo he estado con el distrito como una estudiante ya por 3 años. Por favor, sienten cómodos para contactarme, mandarme un correo electrónico. Para los que no tienen mi correo electrónico, no saben cómo contactarme, voy a poner mi información en el chat para que puedan tener mi información. Si tienen preguntas, si quieren ayuda con algo, si piensan que el distrito necesita algo, un grupo de estudiantes, si tienen comentarios o algo, por favor, contáctame. So I will be leaving my email, my contact info in the chat below for any students that might not know how to reach me. Any comments, concerns, questions that you have, please feel free to contact me. That is exactly why I'm here for. And if I do not have the answer to one of your questions, I will point you in the direction of the person that can answer your question. So thank you so much for allowing me to lead the flag salute, and thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to having I look forward to having a great meeting today.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Appreciate that. Okay, colleagues, we're on to approval of the agenda and order of business. I would like to announce that we are going to make, I know we have a number of public speakers today, so we are going to, if there's no objections from the board, we are going to move up items CC 2 and 3, which are items that deal with board policies regarding masks and vaccinations. We're moving that to after our presentations prior to the Chancellor's report. And I believe, Chancellor, there is a couple of adjustments on the agenda. And if you could announce those, and colleagues, like I said, please let me know if there's an objection, and we'll proceed with a vote there. If not, we'll go ahead and make the changes with the consent.
Yes.
So,
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Veres, members of the board, colleagues. Please note for your agenda a couple of one adjustment and then 2 items that will be pulled. I'll start with the pooled items. Please note that items U2 and U3 will be pulled from the consent agenda. Items U2 and U3 will be pulled from the consent agenda. And then with your concurrence, we'd like to, you'll notice that on item J1, we have a special presentation related to the CCAP or dual enrollment agreement that we have with our partners at LAUSD. It's regards the 5-year extension of our MOU, and we're requesting that to move the consent calendar item 01, which is the approval of the new CCAP agreement with LAUSD, out of order, and to have that vote to take place following the presentation. So with your concurrence, we will ask to have that item moved up and ask Dr. Corner to kick that off.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. Again, I see no objections, so we'll make those changes for the consent of the board here. I also wanted to make a special notation here and adjourn today's meeting in the memory of Mr. Michael Black. Mr. Black was a dedicated member of the LA Trade Tech family for 19 years. He was a valuable public servant and took pride in servicing our students and the community that's there and throughout the district. He worked as a skilled custodian and certified forklift driver, worked on the A shift. Mr. Black joined the LATTC family on February 6, 2002, and worked autonomously from 4:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. So whenever you saw Mr. Black around campus, he was always wearing a bright smile. People have fond memories of him and their interactions with them. He was approachable. He was a consummate team player, and lots of memories of the wonderful conversations that he engaged with people throughout the campus. He was a man of God, kind-hearted, gentle giant, and a role model to those that knew him. Michael leaves behind a wife, 3 children, 3 adopted grandchildren. His absence is going to be missed greatly by the LATTC family. He'll truly be missed. So we'll adjourn our meeting today in honor of the memory of Mr. Michael Black. So, okay, thank you. With that, we'll move forward to item E on our agenda. It's the approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes here from the regular meeting and closed session meeting of July 7th and of July 16th. Colleagues, I'd like to take these items together as a vote. So if we can have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of these 2 meeting dates.
So move.
Motion by Trustee Fong. Thank you, Trustee. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Trustee Moreno. We'll take the second there. Appreciate that. If we can do a roll call vote on this.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna. Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. Okay, and passes. Next, we're going to move to reports from representatives of employee organizations. Are there any members of the resource table that wish to be recognized at this time to make comments to the board? If I can ask you to raise your hand, and we will have our board secretaries move you on over. I see Angela Echeverry from the Academic Senate first up here. So let me call on you, Angela. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. I just returned from Florida. So I was in Miami and Orlando, and it's kind of scary what's happening out there right now with this surge in cases, the Delta variant. And I want to express my concern, and I know that's going to be echoed here today as well, about what's going to happen in the fall, how to handle issues like, class management, mask wearing. In the classroom, faculty are concerned about compliance with mask wearing, as well as capacity of the classrooms and what might happen as we kind of venture into this very uncertain territory. So I just want to say that I think caution, and I really want to applaud the board and the chancellor for keeping safety always first. And I hope that that continues as we move into the fall semester. I know we all want to come back. I want to come back. I'm scheduled to come back, but I think safety has to be our number one priority. So having said that, we are really supportive of the efforts to make sure that everybody is safe and to have a very significant conversation on vaccination and masking and testing and everything else. So again, that's just my plea to you, safety over everything else. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I believe I see Joanne Waddell from the Faculty Guild. Joanne?
Thank you, Board President, Trustees, Chancellor. For the past 17 months, I have said and written and worn T-shirts expressing my belief that there's nothing more important to this organization than the health and safety of our employees, our students, and the communities we serve. Since we went remote, I have recited what has become my COVID mantra, that to reopen our physical campuses, we need testing, tracing, vaccination, ventilation, and mitigation strategies, including masks, physical distancing, and hand hygiene. I'm encouraged to see 3 of those items, vaccinations, testing, and masks, on today's agenda. Again, there's nothing more important than the health and safety of our employees, our students, and our communities. I urge the trustees to move forward with CC items 2 and 3. Thank you.
Thank you, President Waddell. Next, and if you can help me out with raising your hand if you are in the panelist section, because I'm going through a little bit of a list here.
We also have Manny Rangel and Matthew Jordan in the room.
Okay, let's go ahead and go with Matthew Jordan, please.
Good afternoon. I met with my executive board today, and we're observing the same things with COVID that everyone is, the rapid increasing cases, and also the fact that vaccinated people, when they do contract COVID, have dramatically better outcomes than the unvaccinated. And for these reasons, our executive board voted today to unanimously express our support for your proposed vaccination requirement policy. We're very interested in the specifics of how it will be implemented, including making sure that testing occurs on a weekly basis. We look forward to working with the other bargaining units in the district to work out the details so that this policy can be implemented as soon as possible. And we sincerely thank you for your leadership on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's jump over to Manny Rangel from SEIU.
Good afternoon, board members, student trustee Martinez, chancellor, district staff, and students. My name is Manny Rangel with SEIU Local 99. First, we're excited about the upcoming fall semester. Despite low staffing levels in maintenance and operations, know that our members will be working as hard as they can to attempt to provide the safe and sanitary learning environments that our students and staff deserve. Despite the excitement of welcoming more students back in person instruction, overall morale is at an all-time low with this group of workers. Within the last year, we heard the board, the chancellor and his cabinet, and college presidents talk about their support for equity. But recently in negotiations, these low-wage workers that suffer from financial inequities were offered absolutely nothing, $0 in compensation to address this inequity. Not only that, but the district dug their heels and refused to offer us anything, which has led us to impasse in our negotiations. Never in a million years did we think that it would lead up to this. We don't know why the district and its governing board wants to engage with low-wage workers in a fight to continue this inequity. How this makes sense to interview is beyond me. But let me be clear. Our members, together with our community, are ready and willing to fight this good fight. The good news is that there's still time to make things right, but time is ticking. Best case scenario, the district will do the right thing. Worst case scenario, the district will push us to go on strike. Our workers want to be there for our students, but we know that our students will not stand for economic inequities for our lowest paid workforce. In summary, all we're asking you to do is to do the right thing and fix this inequity. Thank you.
Okay, I see two others, but I do believe they may be part of public comment as opposed to employee resource table folks. Is there anybody else from the resource table?
It looks like that's it.
Seeing none, we'll close this item, and we'll go ahead and move forward to public comment. I do want to announce to the public here that this is the second of our 3 public comments we provide in this board meeting. This one is specifically for items that are on the agenda here, on the regular agenda. So there's an opportunity for those that are interested in speaking on items not on the agenda at the end of the meeting, but these comments here are for items on the agenda. I'll read our disclosure here, and then I do know we have at least 14 speakers signed up for one item, and so we will attempt to, within our board rules, have a chance to give everyone a chance to speak here. But first, wanted to inform the public that in public comments, the First Amendment and Moreno guarantee a member of the public the right to criticize a public employee in the performance of his or her duties. However, speakers are encouraged to focus their comments on issues relevant to the conduct of the public's business rather than on private or unrelated matters. As I mentioned, there are 14 speakers signed up. We do have our rules provide for 20 minutes per item. I understand there's additional individuals that have expressed an intention to speak. So colleagues, if there's no objections, and I know I've actually had a chance to speak to a representative from one of the groups that's speaking to provide for at least 1 minute per speaker on the item of the board policies of vaccinations and masking. We can provide that for that item. We'll take those speakers at the front end. There are other speakers interested in speaking on other items. They will be provided the normal 2-minute public comment space just to ensure that we have everybody a chance to provide public comments here. So colleagues, is there any objection to how we handle the public comment there? Okay, seeing none for the board, then we'll move forward. And Board Secretary, can you go ahead and begin reading off those that have signed up for speaking? They will be read first, and we'll give an opportunity to others that are in the audience to speak. They'll come after the list here, and each speaker will have 1 minute. We'll start with the speakers that are on the vaccination and mask policies. So.
Okay.
Crystal.
Okay, so everybody has 1 minute. First one is Zachary Noor, and also Zhang Bellendorf next. So unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, 1 minute, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board of Trustees, for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Zach Knorr. I teach philosophy at Valley College. I would like to speak in support of the proposed COVID vaccination policy. Every day it becomes more clear that the only way to provide safe and healthy campuses for our students, faculty, and staff is to do everything we can to make sure everyone is vaccinated and to ensure that those who are not vaccinated have regular testing. So I applaud you for picking up the recommendation that came from the district WEC committee and moving that forward. I strongly support it. I just wanted to add one thing. The district WEC recommendation also included language to have vaccines and testing available on all 9 of the campuses. I didn't notice that in the board resolution. So I just hope that that's taken into consideration by the board I think equity requires that if we're going to require vaccines, we also make them readily available for all of our students. So thank you for your time. And once again, I strongly support the proposed vaccination policy.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Bellendorf.
Oh, hi, dear trustees, Chancellor Rodriguez, and guests. My name is Shao Bellendorf, and I'm a librarian, the chair of the Work Environment Committee at Valley College, and a member of the District Work Environment Committee. I would like to start by applauding you for your leadership and your efforts to get our students and employees vaccinated. Is a good starting point. I respectfully ask for your considerations to go 2 steps further in your resolution by 1, make vaccine a requirement, not vaccine or testing, as stated in your BP 2900 for access to campus facilities. The same requirement as the CSUs, the UCs, and Santa Monica College. They are implementing the requirement not vaccine or testing in fall 2021. Second, I would like to ask you to make vaccines and COVID tests readily available on all 9 college campuses and offer them at convenient times as stated in the resolution.
Thank you. Next is Ellen Kosan and Reza Farzin.
Great, thank you. Hey, Board of Trustees, Chancellor, College Presidents. This is Alan Kosan, the WEC Chair at East Lake College. I actually just came back from East Lake College's open house, and I had a chance to talk to a couple of the students who were there for the open house. A lot of them were very hesitant to come today to the open house, but we reassured them that with partnership with VA Care, there will be, again, access to vaccination, weekly testing. So we are really hoping that the district is going to support encouraging vaccination, mask wearing, hand washing, and weekly testing for COVID for those who are not vaccinated. So again, thank you for your time, and we hope that you folks are going to provide those, again, solutions.
Reza Farzin and Joseph
Hi.
Guerreri. Thank you. 1 minute.
Okay, thanks. I'm Reza Farzin, the WEC Chair at Los Angeles Harbor College. I can think of 2 valid reasons why LACCD may be hesitant in mandating vaccinations. One being that LACCD may be concerned about health complications arising from such mandatory vaccination for some employees or students, thereby pushing LACCD into some unfortunate moral and legal entanglements. But surely, from a statistical standpoint, not mandating vaccinations can also lead to some innocent individuals becoming affected by unvaccinated individuals, thereby creating its own moral and legal problems. Another reason may be that LACCD is concerned that mandating vaccinations may impact enrollment by pushing some students away with the mandate. But surely, for every student not wanting to enroll in a college that requires vaccination, there is another one who would not want to enroll in a college that does not require vaccination. I hope that LACCD will join the increasing number of public and private academic institutions that have taken the scientifically backed step of mandating vaccinations for all employees and students, as well as weekly testing for those who are exempted from vaccination for various reasons. Thank you for providing this opportunity.
Next is Joseph Guerreri and Cynthia Cohen.
Hello, my name is Joseph Guerreri. I'm the AFT 1521 Faculty Guild Chapter President at LA Trade Tech. I'm here to speak in support of BP 2900 concerning the COVID-19 vaccine requirement. The South LA community that Trade Tech serves has been hard hit by COVID-19. The colleges need to do everything we can to protect the health and safety of our community. As we've learned over the last several weeks, the Delta variant is highly transmissible, and vaccination is really the only effective way to stop the spread. While I'm in support of the resolution passed by the District Work Environment Committee recommends that free vaccination and testing be available on all 9 of our campuses. So we want to reiterate that if we're going to require vaccination and testing, then we need to ensure that everyone can access the vaccines on their campus. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Next, Cynthia Cohen.
Hi, I'm the Library Department Chair at Valley College. And in addition to expressing my general support for the resolution, I have 2 points to make. One, weekly testing should be required at this time for everyone, not just the unvaccinated, because we now know that the Delta variant can be just as easily transmitted by vaccinated people who become infected. LAUSD has adopted this requirement for fall, and we should too. And second, our district seems to have a culture of meeting compliance, often without a lot of follow through. But for this effort, simply meeting compliance will not be enough. The district will need to do this well and thoroughly and be accountable for not just making a rule, but for making sure that everyone on our campuses is actually vaccinated and getting tested regularly. That's the only way this resolution is going to keep us safe. Thanks very much.
Next is Kathy Kilpie and Ruby Christian Bruham.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Kupai. I'm an adjunct professor at East Los Angeles College. Last March, my beloved partner passed away at the age of 42. I'm still grieving his death, and his spirit is with me every day. My partner was not vaccinated for COVID-19. He was also a cancer survivor. I just wanted to stress the importance of proof of vaccination. Thank you for letting me share my very personal story.
Thank you. Ruby Christian.
Hello, Board of Trustee members. I'm Ruby Christian Brome, and I am the AFT 1521 Chapter President at Los Angeles Valley College. We are in support of the vaccine and mask mandates as demonstrated in our own AFT 1521 District Work Environment Committee resolution. The health and the safety of our community, our faculty, our students, and staff should be our #1 priority, and it must outweigh any financial concerns. Given that we primarily educate a population that has a high risk of COVID infection due to the density of housing and high exposure jobs, and also has a low rate of vaccine compliance, it is incumbent upon us as good community members to offer vaccine and testing that is free and easily accessible. We are also an institution of higher learning that must respect the science that supports the vaccine as a primary preventative measure against the COVID infection. Thank you.
Next is Christopher Coper and Chase Shelby.
Thank you. Thank you, President Perez, trustees, Chancellor Rodriguez, and everyone concerned. Appreciate you listening. I hope everyone is well. I just wanted to share that it would be good to have vaccines and testing available at mission and city colleges where I teach as an adjunct. And then if you could give greater deference to the Work Environment Committee and their work at each of the colleges, that would improve our working conditions and hopefully make the colleges more attractive to everyone in the community. And just in general, I defer to what President Waddell shared and what other people have shared as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Shelby, Chase Shelby.
Yeah, hello trustees, everyone else on this call. Thank you so much for taking my comment. My name is Chase Selby. I'm the Learning Center Director at West Los Angeles College. I'm here today to speak in support of BP 2900. As a public serving entity and as an employer, LACCD needs to do everything in its power to keep all parties on their campus safe. Requiring vaccinations is one way to demonstrate that student, faculty, and staff safety is paramount to the district. I work in an area with high student and employee concentration. Areas on campus such as learning centers and libraries serve a wide population of students who rotate in and out throughout the day. The thought of returning to campus, and in my case, to an old and outdated building with limited or insufficient ventilation frightens me, the student workers that work with me, and our students. A high-risk environment filled with anxious and worried students, student workers, and faculty and staff is not an environment conducive and to successful and meaningful learning. One step to ease some of these very legitimate fears and concerns that I and others have is to ensure that individuals on campus are vaccinated. As the Delta variant is causing spikes in cases around the country and within LA County, and as LACCD plans to bring us back to campus, we have to ensure that safeguards are in place so our campuses do not act as super spreader locations. Vaccinations, along with other safety precautions like ventilation, airflow, masking, and general cleanliness is the only—
I'm sorry, your minute's up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Elizabeth Thornton, Clyde Gordon, and Kevin Booth.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Sorry, this is Elizabeth Thornton. As someone returning to in-person instruction this coming fall, I'd like to voice my support of BP 2900 But also I'd like to point to the need for vaccinated people to be able to access on-site testing on a regular basis in addition to unvaccinated people. On the one hand, vaccination cuts the risk of being infected by the Delta variant in half and provides powerful protection against acute and fatal COVID. That said, curbing the risk of on-campus transmission. Curbing, however, is not the same as eliminating, and indeed, according to the LA Times, in our county, 8% of people who were hospitalized with COVID during the month of June were fully vaccinated. This figure seems non-negligible and hits home for me, particularly given that a family friend is currently contending with a highly symptomatic breakthrough case. She's still bedridden at day 10 of symptoms. What the Delta variant seems to point to is a future, if not a present, where we are contending with increasingly vaccine invasive strains, which means that we need to have a process in place whereby everyone can regularly ascertain their status through on-campus testing. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Suki.
Hello, my name is Stuart Suki, and I'm the second vice president of the Academic Senate at East LA College. I would like to express support for board policies 2800 and 2900, which are on the agenda today. According to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, approximately 63% of the Los Angeles County residents 16 years of age and older are fully vaccinated. So while we have come a long way in the county, we do have a ways to go to reach herd immunity. Despite our progress, the CDC did report on July 30th that the new Delta variant is transmissible by vaccinated people. Therefore, not only is LA County not yet at herd immunity, but those folks that are vaccinated may spread the Delta variant. Expecting workers to return to work in small classrooms without common sense prevention methods already in place will certainly provide conditions for Delta to continue to spread and cause deaths. Requiring masks, proof of vaccination or testing, social distancing, including class caps, and other common sense public health measures in the workplace will definitely save lives. It will also lay the groundwork for a quicker and more robust response to possible future threats from other COVID variants, including the Lambda strain coming out of South America. Thank you very much for supporting 2800 and 2900.
Thank you, sir. Clive Gordon, that's the last one.
Yes, thank you, Clive Gordon, Department Chair, Counseling at LA Valley College. I speak on support of this resolution. Based on recent MOU, the counseling faculty will be directed to provide at least 50% of their services in person or face-to-face with students this fall. Without the passing of this resolution, you are further putting the safety of counselors and their families in jeopardy. Currently, many counseling faculty will be working at least 17.5 hours per week out of small offices with students who may or may not be vaccinated. Many of these offices are without windows, proper ventilation, or room for social distancing. I ask you to also consider air purifiers and acrylic plastic dividers in all of these offices as we plan to go back to work this particular fall. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our list is complete.
Thank you. I do believe we have other speakers, but as I'm looking at the list now, they will be invited to speak at the end of the meeting because they are on items not on the agenda. So with that, if there's no other speakers listed or interested in speaking, then we will close public comment and proceed with the meeting. I see none from the participants. Okay, I see none listed here. If there is, if there is somebody who would like to speak again on items not on the agenda, that'll take place at the end of the meeting or toward the end of the meeting, latter half of the meeting. Okay, with that, colleagues, we'll close public comment here and we will move forward with reports and recommendations from the board. As we did, as we sort of recognized our summer recess, I do not believe we have any reports from the board, Chancellor. Is that correct?
No, sir. There were no board committees in July.
Okay, nor was there any Chancellor advisory committees, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, that covers that. Next, we have a number of resolutions. They're listed before you, colleagues. I'm going to see if we can try to take these all together collectively. I do want to note that there is one request on resolution number 3, and that's an accommodation for Yom Kippur and some business travel days for board members. And so that is a modification to our calendar, and we're putting that on there now. Beyond that, the rest are routine and customary. Obviously, we have made it a habit of celebrating retirement for our district academic and classified employees. And so we appreciate all the years of service and time that these members of our family now get a chance to move on with their lives. And as the Chancellor likes to say, what's your saying again, Chancellor? Leave the stress behind. I forget.
No, goodbye, tension. Hello, pension.
There you go. There you go. For those that are very far away from pension, it's a saying we don't remember. Those that are closer, thank you for your service again, and enjoy retirement here with the district. Okay, so colleagues, with that, resolutions, all of them we'll take together. And if I can ask for a motion and a second for resolutions before the board.
Moved.
Motion by Trustee Buona, seconded by Trustee Vella. If we get a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Martinez's advisory vote?
Yes.
Trustee Buona?
Yes.
Trustee Fong?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson?
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman?
Yes.
Trustee Moreno?
Yes.
Trustee Vella?
Yes.
Trustee Vettis?
Yes. The item is passed. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we'll move on to presentation. Again, Chancellor, we are going to take item 1.0 as a vote in our consent calendar. I just wanted to make sure we understood that, and it is related to the CCAP agreement, but we'll do it as a collective motion here. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and kick off our conversation presentation with our CCAP agreement with LUSD. Today we have joining us Allison Yoshimoto Tauri, the Chief Academic Officer for LUSD, who will provide us a little bit more information on the ongoing partnership with the LUSD and LACCD. But before I do that, Chancellor, wanted to call on you, and if you can also introduce, there's a few other presenters and colleagues that have joined us here beyond Allison here. So if you can introduce this item, including our team and their team, and we'll get going on this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vettis, members of the board. This is indeed an item to both commemorate and to celebrate. This is an item that now captures the second 5 years of our very strong, functional, and very productive relationship with our colleague district, LAUSD, in the provision of offering college-level courses at LAUSD, or what is described as dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, that has been fortified by Assembly Bill 288, Mr. Holden. So we thank him for his leadership on that. We've had tremendous progress over the last 5 years. We celebrate this moment with our LAUSD colleagues. We welcome all of you, and for a proper introduction for that, let me kick it off to our lead with our CCAP agreements throughout LACCD, and that's Dr. Ryan Corner. Vice Chancellor, the floor is yours.
So good afternoon, trustees. I want to thank you for taking the time to give attention to this important partnership. And I think partnership is truly the word to use. Over the last 5 years, we've not only worked on these dual enrollment opportunities, but we've become true and fast colleagues. The folks that will be presenting from LAUSD today are true partners in trying to make sure that students in LA have a higher education experience, are going to college and completing college with us and on all the way through their doctorate degrees in some cases. We communicate on a frequent basis. I feel honored to have joined their team working on the issues that they have at LAUSD, and I'm honored to have them as part of my team when we discuss issues of their students coming to us. And so with that, I do want to pass off to LAUSD and let them highlight what this CCAP agreement means to them and what this partnership has entailed over the last 5 years. Allison.
Thank you so much, Dr. Corner, and good afternoon, Board President Vettis, honorable trustees, Chancellor Rodriguez, and the entire LACCD community. My name is Allison Towery, the Chief Academic Officer for the Los Angeles Unified School District. And as we bring our greetings from our entire Board of Education, we wanted to model, in fact, we have a joint PowerPoint that we worked on together, which shows the partnership. And I just have to say, as an aside, it's something when you can just pick up your phone and do a quick cell phone call or a quick text and get something resolved right away. That shows the strength of a partnership and the speed of trust. So thank you so much. On the next slide, you'll see our board president, Ms. Kelly Gonez, and our board vice president, Nick Melvoin, representing our entire board. This is one of the weeks that we don't have a board meeting in LA Unified. And so we have a video today from Vice President Melvoin on behalf of the entire board that we'd like to start with. And then I'll say a few words after that. Thank you.
Crystal, if we could play the video.
Hi, I'm Nick Melvoin, LA Unified School Board Vice President, here to express my gratitude to all of you at the LACCD Board for bringing this new College and Career Access Pathways Partnership Agreement forward. LA Unified is proud to be the first district to enter into this agreement with the dedication and focus on working together to make sure that our kids aren't just graduating ready for college and careers, but that they're graduating with the resources, support, and confidence they need to walk through the doors their diploma have opened. Together, we can put greater weight behind that diploma and make sure that more students have the ability to graduate prepared for all the post-secondary opportunities available to them. The LA Unified Board recently included college readiness in a set of top priorities for the district, which is perfectly aligned with and supported by this effort. It's an ambitious commitment to have all of our high school students concurrently enroll in at least one community college class prior to graduating. But I believe that this type of collaborative partnership is necessary to help us reach our collective goals and set students up for success. We at LA Unified are ready to get to work and excited for this new partnership that builds on the college promise and continues to grow opportunities for concurrent enrollment for our students. When our students take a college class in high school, it helps them see and achieve possibilities for their future. Thank you for this opportunity on behalf of the LA Unified Board.
Thank you so much again for having us here today. I'm joined also by two of my colleagues, Brenda Pensamiento, who is our high school secondary administrator overseeing all of our programs in secondary, and also Mr. Jesus Angulo, who oversees our academic counseling services for students. And Brenda is a recent principal at a large comprehensive high school, and she's led this work personally at the school level. And Mr. Angulo has made this happen from the central office level. So I'm glad to be joined by them today, and they're here if there are any questions at the end. Very briefly, Crystal, if we could return to the slides, please. I just wanted to say that, as Mr. Melvoin said, our district was the first to enter into a CCRAP agreement, and we have that ambitious commitment to continuing to give students the opportunity to take that college course. And our partnership, our joint partnership, has created a seamless pathway for students to go from high school to community college, whether it's for career technical education, to earn a degree, or to prepare for a transfer. And it's helped us improve graduation rates. As you know, we've exceeded 80% graduation rates with a D or better. Our new board goal is to make sure that we're monitoring with a C or better for students to pass A to G, and focusing on early literacy and increasing Algebra 1 pass rates for our students. And of course, always focusing on social emotional supports for our students. And so thank you for that, and giving our students so many options for college and career readiness. And finally, I will end before I turn it over back to Dr. Corner with a couple of student quotes on the next slide that just share that students, sometimes need this partnership to see that college belongs to them. right? And the fact that they have the opportunity to take a college course in high school changes their perception of themselves many times. And it helps them to believe in their future and to see the possibilities. So thank you for helping us show students the impossible, make it possible. And we appreciate your partnership. Dr. Corner, thank you.
Thank you to LAUSD for being here. I think it really exemplifies exactly what we've tried to do over the last 5 years and what we look forward to continuing for the next 5. We've really expanded this dual enrollment partnership because of the data that says that it increases high school completion, which we've already heard from the LAUSD team. It increases college going, which we've seen through a direct pipeline with our LA College Promise programs. And it will eventually impact career wage attainment and degree and certificate attainment. And we're beginning to see those results as we go. If we go to the next slide, what we can see is over the last 5 years, we've had a 69% increase in our enrollment from K through 12 students. This is at a time when other enrollments have suffered. And our 3 core areas that we focused on are non-credit, our enhanced non-credit, and our K through 12. You can see that our K through 12 enrollments have surpassed those all. And that is in no small part to our relationship with LAUSD and a focus on a model that both provides a standard for what we can do for students, but allows the local colleges and the local high schools to really determine what the students really need. You see that in 2017, as we just started dual enrollment, we had 6,600 students who are enrolled in dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment cases. By 2019-20, we were nearly 9,000. 95% of these students were LAUSD students. And so when we talk about dual enrollment, there is no dual enrollment without LAUSD. We have a dedicated partnership, and we are looking forward to what we can achieve in the next 5 years, not just with these enrollments, but seeing the successes of students and what we can truly accomplish for LA by making sure that the next generation is college educated and ready for careers and leadership in our communities. Thank you. And Chancellor, I will pass back to you and the board president.
Thank you, Dr. Corner and our colleagues from LAUSD. Allison, I need to look, Brenda, Jesus, muy bienvenidos. Outstanding partnership. And it is as easy sometimes as picking up a phone or a text, and we are your partners. We committed to this. I remember us being in the boardroom 5 years ago, and we said we're all in, making sure that there are college opportunities for your student. And I think I said I want every single one of your graduates to enroll at LAUSD, if you remember. So that pledge from our board of trustees and our college presidents and our faculty and our staff still remains. And we thank you for, as I mentioned earlier, a functional, productive, mutually beneficial partnership that provides college access and equity to our local residents. We're very, very pleased. So Mr. Vettis, that is the conclusion of the presentation. I would ask that you move up item O1 for board review, motion, and approval.
Off Zoom here, or off mute. Okay, thank you. Chancellor, I wanted to give a chance for the trustees to add a few comments here. Okay. So let me go through that and then we'll go ahead and take the vote, and appreciate all of you joining us here and being part of that presentation. I know we have several connected LAUSD relationships in the board. Some of us have a family member who's a AP at one of your big high schools, so I get a chance to see Garfield and ELAC in our family dinners and all that kind of conversation. So it's really exciting. So certainly it's really important, and it goes without saying, especially when you have relationships with places like Valley College and Grant High School, which share a street. And as much as we explore all the different relationships and certainly I don't want to exclude all of our colleges, but Trade Tech and Harbor and just all the schools that are adjacent and nearby, and from the physical perspective, obviously we've done the last year in a remote environment, but all those relationships and sort of the energy and the buzz that's happened over the last 5 years is really exciting to get a college going a culture to be developed across the board. So we're excited to see it. We're excited to do the renewal here. We're excited to expand and look at all the creative ways that we can introduce the first moment of college to all of Los Angeles' students here. So with that, let me give I have a number of colleagues here. They're They're always quick with their comments, so I appreciate that. I like sharing the podium here, or the what do we? I don't even know how to call it. We have to change our lexicon here with the Zoom world. But let me pass it along, and they can make their comments here too. So let me start off with first Vice President Welna. Are you there? If he's not, I'll go to the second Vice President, Trustee Bella.
Thank you so much, President Veras. And just want to really reiterate the importance of our partnerships. This has been, I think, extremely successful, and we're really happy, Ms. Yoshimoto and Ms. Pensamiento and Mr. Angulo, that you're here and able to report and to present to us such wonderful findings, really, because at the end of the day, I think without you all, dual enrollment wouldn't be a possibility at the scale that it is. So just anything you need from us, let us know. And thank you all so much for being here. It just means so much. Thank you.
Great. And Trustee Henderson, our teacher of teachers on our board here. Trustee Henderson.
Thank you, President Veras. Thank you so much, LAUSD, for this partnership. As a former K-12 classroom teacher and now a teacher of teachers, this is very near and dear to my heart. You know, when we talk about access and equity, this is huge. And I can't say enough. I am somewhat speechless, but thank you so much for this. And I really, really, really look forward to seeing how far we can take this opportunity for our students on both levels. Thank you.
And I'll say, Trustee Henderson, a product of LAUSD and LACCD. So one of our special combinations here. So next, and also I think a product of LAUSD and LACCD, Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you so much, President Veras. Yes, I'm a product of LAUSD, and my children also are products of LAUSD. So I'm a proud public school parent. They're old now, though. They're 30 and 32, but they had great experiences in the LA Unified School District, as did I. And I went to Grant High School and Valley College. And thank you so much for being here. It's, it's great when we approve agreements, but it's even better when you come and represent. And I know you have a great working relationship with Dr. Corner, who has just been fabulous through all of this. And it's really exciting to see that we're approving a new CCAP agreement. And I love the opportunities that we have for students, because we have so many. We have, the Jumpstart student who comes and maybe takes a class or two. We have the formal dual enrollment students. And then we have students that, just sort of want to experience some of our classes when they can. And I think the exciting part about it is when students actually accumulate some units from community college before they go on, if they're going to go on to a four-year university, or if they're going to come to one of our schools. And it really kind of opens up their eyes to what college is all about. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks for bringing the recorded message from Vice President Nick Melvoin. That was nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Bona.
Yes, I just, a little side note, I graduated from, I know I'm dating myself, but from high school in 1990. I took my essential graduating from college class at West LA College. Where's President Limbaugh when we need him? West is best. I know he's out there clapping, but I think, we should always remember, the different institutions that make up Los Angeles and how important. If it wasn't for that one 3-unit class, I wouldn't have graduated and been able to start a graduate school, that fall in 1994 at San Diego State. So, we love our dual enrollment partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Next, Trustee Fong.
Thank you, President Veras, and thank you so much to our partners at LA Unified School District for this amazing presentation. I too am a product of the LA Unified School District and LACCD, and it's great to join my colleagues and congratulating LAUSD for all your amazing leadership and efforts on dual enrollment. And it's not just dual enrollment programs, it's the youth source centers that are co-located on our campuses in partnership with your pupil services and counselors, the workforce development programs that we have in partnership with you, and also the programs around Go East and the various great outcomes programs that this district and the Chancellor and our board and Vice Chancellor Corner and everyone has partnered with LAUSD on. So thank you so much to Allison, to Jesus, and to Brenda, and to your entire team. and to the LUSB for your leadership and efforts on these programs. Really appreciate everything you're doing for our students and to empower their hopes and aspirations for a better tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Fong. Trustee Moreno.
Well, I was at West LA College when we established a super graduate program, which was the first co-enrollment program with LA Unified. And of course, at President East, I was deeply involved in that. And I do thank LA Unified for their work with us. I do have a question, though. I was interested to know what percentage of our FTS comes from the dual enrollment program. I don't know if Ryan has an answer for that, but it would certainly would justify our deep thank you to them all if we knew how much money we're making on the project. Thank you.
Give me about 45 seconds and I'll have that for you, Trustee.
Okay, thank you. And of course, Trustee Moreno is one of our historical memories of the district where he can go back and talk about when LACCD and LUSD were one and the founding of the district. So it's great to have his voice in terms of the historic perspective and memory here. Student Trustee Martinez, are you here? Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I'm actually, so I am a product of LAUSD as well. I went to Theodore Roosevelt Senior High, and I actually was a dual enrollment student, and I actually really appreciated those classes. A lot of my peers really appreciated those classes. We thought that it was a lot of fun and that it was a really great opportunity, and it actually really encouraged a lot of students to go to college because as a first generation student, as a student that comes from a marginalized community, as a student that comes from a community that is made up of undocumented people, that is made up of other first generation students, and not just first generation in terms of college, it's first generation in terms of high school, and even sometimes first generation in terms of elementary school. This opened another avenue for us as students, and it changed the conversation from you can go to college to being in college level classes, to learning at the college level, and to believing that you could really do it, and creating a relationship with a professor, because many of our teachers were always saying, professors are going to be like this, professors are going to be like that, but you really got the opportunity to meet a professor and experience what that was like. So I think dual enrollment is great. I think that this is a really amazing opportunity, and thank you so much for being here and presenting to us today.
Thank you. Okay. From that, let's go ahead and we'll move to the vote on item 102 or 01, I should say.
Thank you, Mr. Vettis. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to answer Mr. Moreno's question, is just over 5% of our FTS is generated from our dual enrollment, so not insignificant. And we thank again our LAUSD partners. Pardon me for the interruption.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so colleagues, with that, if I can ask for a motion and a second on item 01.
I move to approve the CCAP agreement with LA Unified School District.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hoffman, second by Trustee Vela. Can please have the roll call?
Student Trustee Martinez, advisory vote?
Yes.
Trustee Buelna? Trustee Buelna?
Yes.
Trustee Fong?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson?
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman?
Yes.
Trustee Moreno?
Yes.
Trustee Vela?
Yes.
Trustee Vettis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item passes unanimously. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to the next 5 years. Okay. With that, we are now at the report from the Chancellor. Actually, I'm sorry. I want to go back because I did move the two items. And Chancellor, how about we do this? Because I was going to ask you to frame up the board policies for us, and then we'll move into dealing with the policy discussion and vote. And so if you can introduce it, and I appreciate all of the speakers, and I hope they're going to be able to stay on and listen to the conversation that will take place here on these two items. The health and safety of our campus community is very important to all the trustees. What's presented before us is the work of our Human Resources Department, our Emergency Operations Center, our General Counsel, trying to understand and take a very complex and almost moving daily a situation of public policy across this country, things that we're dealing with on an unprecedented basis, and pull together a policy document. And it's a policy. I'm going to say this on the front end, because I know our colleagues over at Santa Monica have placed on their agenda a resolution. A policy document and a policy set is much more expansive, and it does have a much more formalized process and procedure element than some of our colleague and sister schools in the region here. But I know there's plenty of comments here on this, and Chancellor, if you can introduce it. We were asking for a oral report here on this from the team, so they can consider all pieces of what's in front of us. And I'm going to say this about public policy in general. They are public policy are living, breathing documents, sets of rules and orders for us to work together. But because they're living, breathing, there is an opportunity to always improve and change and remake and understand the context of the time. We're imperfect people, all trying to do the right thing, and so taking the best information in front of us is what Board Policy 2800 and 2900 attempt to do. But from this presentation from Chancellor and your team, we'll have an opportunity for the trustees to all make comments before we go ahead and take motions on these two items here. So, Chancellor.
Yes, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vettis, and members of the board, colleagues who are listening in. We find ourselves at a very important juncture, crossroads, and I believe that the work that has been presented here through Board Policy 2800 and 2900, both dealing with the use of mask coverings, and then a requirement for vaccinations, I believe is at this juncture the most responsible, prudent, and important policy that the board can pass to sustain and promote and incentivize the health and safety of all of our college employees as well as our students. So we thank you for the thoughtful consideration. I'll give a general comment, then I'm going to pitch it to Dr. Nish, who is the leader and director of the Emergency Operations Center. Her and her team, as well as General Counsel, along with our colleagues throughout the district, college presidents and human resources, have really been very important in putting the words, the language, importantly here, that will provide us a very broad and important opportunity to develop administrative procedures that will indeed implement Board Policies 2800 and 2900. I would note that the LA County Public Health Department already has an indoor mask policy, so we clearly are mandated to follow that. But this puts additional language to that mask requirement should the LA County requirement and order subside for any reason. So it does improve that and sustain that the particular requirement. The mask requirement itself, I would also, the vaccination requirement 2900 is something that we're also very pleased about and very proud of. But I will say this, that if the board decides to move on this today and to approve this today, it does not go into effect tomorrow or right after the board moves and potentially approves this particular board policy. We still have to develop the administrative procedures. You delegate the authority to me and my office and colleagues to do so. That's what this board policy does. We've already begun the sketches, the outlines, the contours to the administrative procedures. We will be thorough, thoughtful, consultative, and inclusive when we move forward in doing that. There are elements to the board policy that we have to bargain the effects of, that we've spoken to the board about in closed session, and that we've begun some consultation with our labor caucus around that as well. So again, we will be thorough, deliberate, thoughtful, and it could take several weeks before we actually get this policy implemented. So I wanted to make sure that that point was clear. So let me stop there and continue to tee this item up for discussion and board review. Let me pitch it now to Dr. Nish.
Thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, and good afternoon, President Veras and trustees. and everyone who is here joining the meeting today. Things are moving quickly, and I would like to take each of these proposed board policies separately, if I may, beginning with proposed board policy 2800, use of face coverings. As you're all aware, the LA County Department of Public Health produced a health officer order initially on July 16th, modified on July 22nd. And before we could even get this agenda, after we got this agenda out, modified yet again on the Friday, July 30th. Currently, for all indoor areas within the County of Los Angeles, mask or facial covering is required. So this board policy reinforces that health order. It does make it a specific policy of the district per your approval. And as you will note, the policy language is actually here under use of face coverings in indoor settings, where it states, regardless of vaccination status, all students, employees, and visitors shall wear a face covering while present in any district building, classroom, library, gymnasium facility, or other indoor setting. The next sentence is very specific to when there are sign language interpreters in a classroom. At that point in time, faculty and interpreters may remove their coverings if necessary while teaching and signing, of course, while all other students in the classroom are wearing face coverings. As the Chancellor correctly stated, we're asking that the board delegate to the Chancellor the authority to develop procedures to implement this policy, which would include enumerating any other exceptions to wearing face coverings when indoors. Notably, there is one exception that is allowed through the County Department of Public Health, and that is when you are in an office or room all alone. Then you may take your face covering off. Other than that, there are very few other exceptions. And of course, we would be working with our union leadership to bargain the effects of the implementation. But as the Chancellor properly stated, we are already by the health order in full implementation of wearing masks while indoors. I am happy to address any other questions, and I would like to thank the Office of General Counsel for their fine work on developing this policy language for the board.
All right, thank you for that presentation. General Counsel, is there anything you wanted? I know there was several more questions on the vaccination item that's after this, but did you want to make any comments for this particular policy?
Board President Vettis, no, thank you very much for the leadership. No, I think that the Chancellor and the Deputy covered this quite well, frankly. I really wouldn't have anything else to add on the face covering board policy, and I'll reserve any comments. I know that we want to take these separately when we get to the vaccination requirement policy.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go, colleagues, don't worry about hands for now. We're going to go through everyone. If you have additional comments, then you can raise your hands on the additional comments. So let's kick this off with Trustee Henderson. Questions or comments on what's before you? This is just board policy 2800, the use of face coverings.
No questions. Just I think we should make sure that we consider the fact that, you know, we want to honor all of the work groups and all of the comments that we've heard today, and do our best, do our due diligence. But I personally feel that we should have masks at all times on campus. Thank you.
Next, we'll go on to Trustee Vela.
No questions.
Okay, next, we're looking at Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you, President Veras, and thank you, Dr. Nish, for your presentation. You know, I echo my colleague, Trustee Henderson. I don't understand why it's spelled out in the policy that regardless of vaccination status, no masks are required outdoors. I personally feel that masks should be required anytime you're on any of our campuses, whether you're indoors or outdoors. but there are new studies coming out every single day about the variant. And I just think that if we just had an easy policy where you need to wear your mask, it would be much easier to enforce, because I can see there would be problems with interpretation of somebody who, isn't wearing their mask outdoors, but wants to pop indoors for a minute, or groups of people eating lunch outside, maskless. I think if we just had a policy that just required mask wearing, it might be a lot easier to enforce. So I don't know if there's room to make a change, but I would offer just adding that one sentence. And obviously it would be at our discretion, or the chancellor's discretion, if the cases were again to go down. Maybe we could loosen up on the mask requirement for outdoors, but I feel like we should just have a mask requirement, period.
Thank you, Trustee. Next, we'll move on to Trustee. I don't see Trustee Buelna. Did he fall off? Did he fall off? Are you there? Sorry. Okay, he fell off my screen. Okay, go ahead, Trustee Buelna.
No, thank you very much. In following up with Trustee Hoffman is saying, I support the maximum we could do in terms of safety. Understanding the legal limitations that we have, and that's it. I appreciate staff's recommendation. We have received all the messages, and we understand the importance of maximum safety under the rules of law that protects everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Fong.
Thank you so much, President Vettis, and thank you for everyone for the presentation. Checking my colleagues' comments, definitely support this mask mandate and Board Policy 2800 for the use of face covering. So thank you for putting this together. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Moreno.
Yes, just a question about the mandate. Is there a triggering event, or I didn't see? I have to really. I didn't see anything in there that had to deal with how long a requirement in terms of what conditions do we have to expect us, what does need to change? What do we need to change in order for us to not implement this policy? What are the triggering events that causes us to do this, and what would be the triggering event that causes us to stop doing this? Anyone have an answer for that?
Deputy Chancellor, can you take this one, and if you can, in reference to Trustee Hoffman's comment, give us the up-to-date standard from County Public Health in terms of mask wearing?
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Veras. Trustee Moreno, the answer to your question is found in the delegation of authority to the Chancellor. The delegation of authority allows him to implement, which means when to start and when to stop. So it would be to the Chancellor's discretion to determine when this may stop. And then, of course, that may lead to a formal action of the board to rescind the policy. And I would base that on current health orders.
Okay, but there's nothing in the policy that relies on an independent action by some other public agency and or decision made by some health organization. So it would be purely up to the Chancellor. The Chancellor could, even during this time, not implement this policy.
It would not, the Chancellor actually by default is implementing this policy due to the current health order. But with respect to ending this particular policy, it would be to the Chancellor's discretion if the health orders changed such that it was not required by the county. This would allow the Chancellor to extend this if deemed necessary, or to, in fact, end this. At this particular point in time, the current health order, as requested by President Veras, does not require the use of masks outdoors, but does require the use of masks in all indoor public settings. So essentially, trustees, what this allows is for the discretion to continue the masking if it was deemed to be appropriate based on recommendations rather than mandates from health orders.
I do have a problem with the independence of an individual in determining whether what we wear, both indoor and outdoor, should there be a change in the condition. I do have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact we don't have it tied into some other health requirement provided by the county or the state, and that we would have that kind of independence. That is a serious concern of mine. I also, I understand the not wearing mask outdoors. Apparently that's a common policy. However, I am concerned about the fact that we don't have some termination period for this, other than what the chancellor decides. That's my position.
Thank you, Trustee. Everyone's had a chance to speak here, so I'll take hands as they come up, and I see Trustee Moreno with a hand up. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I meant to actually, when you put your hand up, you bounced on my screen. Student Trustee Martinez, I wanted to give you a chance to speak. My apologies. You went from the top of my screen to the bottom as soon as you put your hand up. So Student Trustee, comments first, and then we'll go over to Trustee Moreno.
Okay, great. Thank you. In this resolution, I would like to highlight our ASL students and our ASL learning students. I know that there was something written that for our interpreters, they would be allowed to remove their masks. But I think that in supporting ASL students and in seeing the visibility in our ASL students and our ASL learning students and our ASL faculty, we should have the masks that have the clear mouthpieces so that our ASL students learning, or our ASL professors, or ASL interpreters, or interpreters in general can see the mouth movements through the clear piece in their mask. So it's like a PVC of plastic, and then it's the rest of the cloth. That's something that throughout the pandemic has been highlighted for the ASL community, because when you think in terms of our ASL learning classes and things like that, if they are in person, many of the times when you speak ASL, you have to use, your mouth movements to mouth the words when you are doing the signs, and it helps with interpretation and with communication. And so is then our ASL classes, are all of our students going to then have all their masks off if they're trying to learn a lesson? Or is our ASL professor going to be expected to have their mask off the entire class when they might not feel comfortable like that, or students might not feel comfortable like that? And also for visibility purposes, our ASL students, when they are going to be hanging out in the outside areas, in the quads or whatever it may be, are they going to have to, have their masks off to communicate? I know that we are saying that in our outdoor areas, that it's okay to take off your mask, but echoing what Trustee Hoffman said is that being able to have our masks off outdoors anywhere on campus, I think could still be a safety hazard. And I think, yes, could also cause problems for us with technicalities and people maybe forgetting that they're outside and they go back inside and they forget to put their mask on or something like that. So if we are going to have areas where students can have their masks off, I believe it should be designated areas, because of course, when our students eat, they're going to need to take their masks off. So I think maybe only in designated eating areas our students should have their masks off. Something else, oh yes, I would like to echo what Trustee Henderson and what Trustee Hoffman said, that we should have masks available throughout our campuses. I know that this is something that we talked about before, and it's something that I'm sure the district was going to do regardless, but I would like to have it written down just to ensure that we can enforce it. And I want to also agree with Trustee Moreno on certain students or maybe even faculty or visitors on our campus that might have certain health issues that prevent them from wearing masks, or certain of our students, faculty or visitors that might have disabilities that prevent them from wearing a mask. If they have, a letter from their healthcare provider or something like that, we have to be respectful of that. And I'm sure the district was going to be respectful of that, regardless, but I think it would be great to be able to include that in here. So yes, just to reiterate, I think clear mouth face masks for ASL students, faculty, and ASL learners, having masks everywhere on our campus, having designated areas where our students can take their masks off. And if you're outside those designated areas, you must wear your mask. And having it, in writing how we're going to support our students that have disabilities or health issues that might prevent them from being able to wear their mask. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee. Trustee Bona, you have your hand up.
I think the chancellor's giving the chancellor that discretion. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was worried about the emergency, and I believe we're protocols that, but putting that in the chancellor's hands has worked, and so I wouldn't change that. I think, requiring, it's interesting because this is all a balance, right? Requiring that if you put a mask on, the minute you get out of your car, out of the bus, all the way until you get back on, may be unmanageable. However, I do believe that's ultimately where we want to be, in terms of, why? Because it's, we're going up and down with regard to the pandemic. And I think, that's what I worry about. You've had governors who declared victory back in May of 2020. We've had, LA almost open up, then come down. I think ultimately, as much as, let me just say, as someone who wears glasses and anyone who wears glasses, you don't like the masks, and this is about saying, sometimes it's important to say things out loud, right? I don't like the masks, but ultimately we know that we're not doing something that we ultimately like. So I'm in favor of putting language that is aspirational to getting, us into everywhere. Understanding that it's very difficult to monitor that, if not impossible, because then you create a policing task to do that. But I think we may all, and I'm just going to speak for myself, want to get there. And I think that's what I'm challenged at. I support this resolution, obviously, but I'm wondering, is there a word or two to tweak that wouldn't affect the integrity but get to that goal?
Well, if I can ask a follow-up question there and try to incorporate some of the questions you're asking here. This conversation about outdoor masking, General Counsel, and I know we've done some extensive research, and Deputy Chancellor, is there any? Well, let me distinguish between outdoor masking and large social gatherings, because I do believe there has been commentary on social gatherings and outdoor masking, and I will use the example of an individual walking in a park or an individual walking with their family unit or something like that. Sort of the risk of being in places where it's contained is certainly a different kind of conversation than requiring and enforcing everyone that's walking on the campus to be masked. Is there any examples anywhere? I know there's some public comment. There's been some references to places like Santa Monica, Glendale Community College. Does anybody have an outdoor mask policy anywhere?
Trustee Veras, is that question referred to me or to council?
To both of you, please.
To my knowledge, the answer is no. I will defer to council simply because of what the health order is. We do not have county, state, or federal health orders that require the use of masks outdoors. We do have protocols for large or mega gatherings.
Deputy Chancellor,
I think the Deputy Chancellor may have frozen. I wanted to add, President Bettis, and I know you have other trustees that want to speak. Just taking a larger step back, I'm deferring to I believe the deputy is correct. I've not seen an example, but I'm not going to say that I know every single policy where it's dealt with outdoor masking. Ultimately, this is your policy, and the board can choose to do what they would like to do. But I do want to clarify one particular matter. This is not a resolution from the perspective of this is aspirational. This is actually a policy, and if you go down the list, that will be enforced. So again, I think part of the consideration and part of the what the chancellor will be doing, as well as us working with with our labor partners, is those policies will be enforceable policies. So, and again, I think the trustees have also mentioned the enforceability aspect. So ultimately, your policy, I don't believe there are any examples. I've not seen any that are focusing on the outside, but whatever the policy is, the intent of this policy, unlike other sort of aspirational actions taken by other bodies, is that it will be enforceable.
Okay, Deputy Chancellor.
The General Counsel?
Sure, but I wanted to give the Deputy Chancellor, because she was making a comment about social gatherings. So she can complete that thought, and then we'll go ahead and go to your follow-up question to the General Counsel, and then I see another hand up, and I'll go to the other hand after that. So Deputy Chan, I'm sorry, you froze right in the middle when you were saying social gatherings.
I'm sorry. Thank you, President Veras. There are protocols for large gatherings called mega events. There are very specific protocols, but other than that, there are no protocols. And a mega gathering is a gathering of 10,000 individuals for an event. Of course, as Council stated, this is your policy. If you feel strongly that you need to modify the language and you need to say something akin to regardless of vaccination status, individuals may not be required. This is your policy, and you can change this as you feel is appropriate. We modeled this after what the current health order is.
Okay, thank you. And then Trustee Buona, your questions to General Counsel.
Right, the General Counsel. Aspirational could be part of the policy, that, we put signs outside, saying, look, we would prefer that you do, for the sake of health of others, but the policing outside may be, too complicated. You could add that language in, so you encourage it as people understand that because as we get variants, we at least want to know we went to the maximum, to the maximum. Outside requiring must be different, but we could write that in, and later on, if it gets worse, then we could up that to a mandatory, but not now.
Trustee Buona, that's an excellent point, and I think that's also what the deputy was stating as well. The aspirational aspect, I absolutely agree with you, can be folded in as part of the procedures that the chancellor will be developing. And if that is a direction of the board to say that we would like, it doesn't necessarily have to be part of this policy, because we're not specifying what the procedures will be. But I think you're absolutely right. There can't be, separate direction given to the chancellor in terms of, as part of the policies, we'd like you to take a look at this. These are aspirational. I think you're absolutely right in terms of the placement of those types of thoughts in that area.
A masked person is a good neighbor everywhere.
Okay. Sounds good. And I did want to sort of be clear, colleagues, the enforcement mechanism here is what sets the policy, what sets the action we're doing, apart from other people who are being aspirational, other districts that are being aspirational. Many of the resolutions that have been sent to us and put on the table for us, this is something that has deep down implications. And certainly, obviously, we want to make sure that everybody can be as safe as possible. But the element of enforcement here is very critical. And I think you have a suggestion for the aspirational nature that I think can be accommodated reasonable, but this particular policy sets the standard of policies and procedures that also include enforcement components. So just wanted to be clear, and that's why it's been sort of a challenging, putting it together and having it be on the table, and that's why we're taking the time as necessary to review and discuss this one. So Trustee Hoffman, I see your hand.
Thank you. I'm somewhat shocked that we're even having a mask conversation. My understanding, and maybe I'm completely wrong, is that people could shed their masks if they were vaccinated, right? But in here it says on whether you're vaccinated or not. Okay, so I'm wrong. I know that on my campus, and it might not be a policy that the board has approved, but our college president said you must wear your mask when you're at Glendale College. Indoor, outdoor, there's a mask requirement. Now, maybe, I don't know how enforceable it is, Jeff, when you talk about the legality of it, but honestly, I kind of feel like the mask wearing is like smoking. And I don't mind Student Trustee Martinez's suggestion of having areas where people who need to be able to show their faces and lips, could be. But I mean, I think now we're still in the middle of a pandemic. We don't know how crazy fast this variant spreads. Vaccinated people are becoming infected. I don't know why we can't just say, for now, you wear your mask indoors or outdoors. I feel like that's an easier, it's easier to enforce it if you just have a rule that you wear your mask, rather than you don't wear it outdoors, but you do wear it indoors. That's just how I feel. I always wear my mask. I walk in my neighborhood. Everyone in my neighborhood, even if they're out walking alone, they're wearing their masks now. People are masking up. And I feel like we don't know what our contractors are doing. We have other people on our campuses. I think it's the safest thing to do until we know.
Trustee Miller?
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you done?
I mean, I just want to know, can we modify the policy? I know it's not a resolution, but can we modify the policy until such time as we see cases going down? I mean,
Trustee, it would be my preference to vote on the policy because it was legally researched and it was posted. And that's now I am okay. And I think it seems fine to add a resolution or add additional later, but this is the one that's been posted. This is the one that's been researched. This is the one that's gone through the legal documentation. This is the one that has been sort of validated and connected to public health. The other items that are here are clearly opinions expressed, and they're fine. And I'm not saying anything wrong about your opinions. But if that could be done as a separate item to do this one that has gone through a process of posting and research and everything from legal forward with public health, to make modifications on the fly makes me a bit uncomfortable. But I can certainly, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. There's an opportunity to bring one forward if you choose. This is the one that, as board president, the sort of emergency effort that we did to place this on the agenda in consultation with both vice presidents and our emergency operations and our general counsel. This is the one that was brought forward for our consideration. Like I said, we do have a meeting on the 18th. There is an opportunity to bring other pieces. We're happy to take feedback, happy to take and research the resolutions that you're referring to over, or not, maybe not even resolutions, but maybe the president of Glendale and your own workplace standards. We can certainly bring those to bear and assess and evaluate, but in front of us is something that's been researched and posted, and people know what we have coming to this. And of course, health orders are changing daily, or almost, and I think that was referred to early in the presentation. And we're not necessarily being, trying to be difficult in terms of that space, but because there's an enforcement element of this, and certainly the danger is indoors is substantially higher than outdoors, and that's been proven clearly. The fact that we're going to have steps to come forward to deal with enforcement and potentially discipline issues that need to be bargained. That's why it was important to do it very carefully and in this way. The items you mentioned, I would very much encourage us, if there's a strong desire to do this, that we place it as an item that comes up in our meeting in 2 weeks. Regular board meeting in 2 weeks, and allow our staff and allow our legal team to research and understand all the different pieces of what happens on the outdoor space. And if it's going to be aspirational, that's okay. There's something to encourage that. Many of the comments about being heavy-handed in enforcement and those kinds of things are completely understandable and things that we want to carefully look at. But we have another window to do this, and the outdoor space is like I said, it's a couple of ticks up, and it is right now beyond what public health is recommending, but it is certainly something important to talk about. So I'll state that there, generally speaking, but it is important to have the item that's been researched, evaluated, and voted on. If it fails, we'll have to construct another item to come back to the agenda. So
thank you. I appreciate the thorough explanation, but I also understand that while public health has certain laws, rules, and regulations, we're allowed to go beyond that. And Chancellor, you've explained that to me before, that we have to at least do the minimum, but we're allowed to go beyond what public health is recommending. So my recommendation again would be, and I'm not even sure that we need to vote on it or it needs to be in board policy, that the Chancellor exercise his authority. And for now, while the Delta variant is rampant and there are new variants, actually just state we're going to require masks to be on our premises in LACCD. Okay. That would be my preference.
Trustee, I hope in your language you understand the difference between doing formalized enforcement And what you're suggesting, even though you're saying required, if there is no mechanism, if we do not follow the PER process, if we do not respect the way that we have to negotiate with our labor partners, it is something that's just going to be said and announced, and not necessarily something that's followed up with. And certainly, there's been public comments about following up with these things here, and that's part of the reason. But I respect where you're coming from, and I understand sort of the general conversation that we're having here. But certainly, those kinds of instructions, and it could come at the suggestion of our emergency operation, our chancellor, and those things have happened. There are signs that have been placed throughout campuses, even beyond the policy. The point of the policy is that it gives them the opportunity to do additional enforcement people that is the strongest that we can put on the table. So, Trustee Vela, I see your hand.
Yes, I think we need to move forward with the most aggressive that we have right now in front of us, which seems to be, ensuring that we are able to mandate masks indoors, which right now parallels, county health orders and in particular state health orders. I do want to say that, I would really appreciate a constant report back from the Chancellor moving forward on what the latest data would suggest the policy would then, morph into. And so, but for now, I think we do have to adopt this immediately. It's important. I do agree with Trustee Hoffman that we might need to move a little bit further than this protection. I just want to make sure that we're able to pass this today since it's urgent, and then we will move forward with as the data comes. And I assume, Chancellor, that all of the social distancing and limits to large crowds will also be already in place at our campuses by this fall, correct?
Yes, sir. We're following county health orders on that as well. Yes, we are.
All right. Thank you very much. I move the motion if so moved by anybody.
Trustee, I'm sorry, before you do that, because typically we adopt board policies with a first reading, and then the item we are, what I'd like to ask the board is prior to the vote here, that if we can vote to suspend Board Rule 2417, that allows sections of board rules to be suspended by a vote of the board, and essentially to allow the immediate adoption of this board policy. So if I can ask for a motion to suspend Board Rule 2418, requiring notice of proposed amendments in a prior meeting before action is taken to adopt an amendment to our board rules. So may I have a motion and a second to suspend Board Rule 2418?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Vela. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Henderson. Thank you. Now that the board rule is suspended, we can go forward and be able to adopt the board policy 2800 here at this meeting.
President Bettis, we need to vote on that particular.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we have a motion and a second.
A motion and a second, and if I can ask for a roll call on that item.
Trustee Martinez, advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. Okay. Next, I heard the beginnings of a motion. So a motion by Trustee Vela on approval of board policy 2800 regarding use of face coverings. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Henderson. I know we've had quite a bit of dialogue prior. So let me go ahead and do the roll call, and then I know it appears to be the will of the board to provide some additional instructions to the Chancellor in the implementation process, et cetera. So let's go ahead and do the roll call vote on this item, and then we can go ahead and take other instructions from the floor. So roll call, please.
Trustee Martinez, advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buelna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item passes unanimously. Thank you, colleagues. Now, I know we had a few comments about the opportunity, Chancellor and Deputy Chancellor, to encourage and to be safe at all times and all points, to consider using masking in all parts of the campuses. Would it be, trustees, would it be possible, without finding all the words that I think everyone was interested in, is to essentially have the Emergency Operations, our General Counsel, and the Chancellor explore ways to be aspirational, as Trustee Bona put it, and to encourage this, and possibly work to bring forward additional items for the board to consider at our August 18th meeting. Okay, so I'll put that as a general sense. And I thought I saw a hand from the student trustee. Yes, student trustee, just want to make a comment.
Thank you, Trustee Vettis. I just wanted to, I believe that's what you just said, but just to clarify, at the next board meeting, we will be able to submit resolutions for the policy that would include maybe having designated areas, or as well as the comments that I made in reference to our ASL students and our ASL community and the clear face masks, and in reference to what Trustee Moreno said for health issues with people that may not be able to wear their mask at all times, and ensuring that we will have masks provided at all throughout our campuses. I just want to, I know that we weren't able to discuss many of those things, but I think that those are important issues. And I just want to make sure that although we have voted to adopt BP 28, I want to ensure that we will be able to bring this up again and be able to support students in these avenues.
Mr. Vettis, can I respond? I know that the student trustee is looking for some responses. Let me assure that student trustee and members of the board that in the AP process, that these matters that you have addressed here or raised here will be addressed. I'll say just shortly, clearly, we will allow medical exceptions, with certified documentation. That's clearly going to be the case. We are not looking to impede anyone who has medical reasons to not mask up. And with respect to the clear mask, we actually have those. So we will dispense those clear masks for those that need for academic and teaching purposes to use those. So rest assured that those are already ordered. I see Dr. Nish nodding yes. So those are in place as well. And with respect to the designated areas, certainly we'll take that under advisement, and we'll see how enforceability and practicality of that. But thank you for your very on the ground student perspective. They've been very valuable today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you there. And any other comments? I see no other hands, so we will. Trustee, I see your actual hand out, your virtual hand. So
I've had my virtual hand up and then I took it down.
Okay.
Just a really quick comment. Chancellor and Dr. Nish and Mr. Prado, is the district going to come up with some guidelines and recommendations around breaks, lunchtime? Are people allowed to eat indoors, or do they have to eat outdoors? As a board member, I don't need to know all the details. I'm just wondering, is that sort of in the plan in terms of maybe implementing some new policies?
It'll be in the administrative procedures of how these policies are enacted, and we're trying to better describe life on campus in this environment that we find ourselves in. So your astute observations will be embedded within the APs that we develop.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you all. Next, we're going to move on to Board Policy 2900. And if we can move it over to the Deputy Chancellor for the presentation. Again, this one has a little more nuance to it than the prior one, but the Chancellor or Deputy Chancellor, if you want to jump straight into the board report here.
Dr. Nish, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, President Veras. The proposed board policy 2900 refers to vaccination and testing. And by way of introduction, I would like to recall that we did present to the board in June vaccination mandates and considerations and consequences. And one of the consequences is that vaccination mandates are very difficult to implement because we do have an emergency approved set of vaccinations. And obviously there need to be carve-outs for religious exemptions, medical exemptions, and some institutions just have general exemption. So in taking your feedback from the meeting in June, and as a consequence of how things have progressed in the county, where we have gone into a very high level of transmission in our community, and then working, of course, with the Chancellor and the board leadership, and thank you again to Council, we are proposing to you this policy, which is not a vaccination mandate. It is rather this places a very specific requirement. And I'd like to just simply read to you what the policy states, what the policy is. As a condition to physically access any district building, classroom, library, gymnasium, facility, or other indoor setting, all district employees and students shall either 1, present proof that they have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, or 2, undergo regular testing for COVID-19 and produce proof of negative test results. That is the policy language. This is similar to masking in that procedures must be developed. This policy delegates to the Chancellor the authority to do that. And in this particular case, there is no health order that mandates vaccinations. There is no health order that mandates testing. We're going beyond health orders, and we are taking a very firm stance to protect our physical locations for our students and our employees. We will need to develop extensive procedures. We have already begun looking at the processes that would be needed to support this type of policy. And I can assure the board that we do have the internal mechanisms to be able to create processes where we can effectively implement and assure that people are providing documentation as to vaccination status or testing status. I will leave it at that. If you have any specific legal questions, again, this is being thoroughly researched by the Office of General Counsel. They are fully aware of all the recent changes that we have seen around vaccination mandates, requirements, and documentation. As you stated, Trustee Veras, this is very much in keeping with what the city of Los Angeles has announced and what they are doing. I will pause at this time and allow for any questions.
Well, let me ask our General Counsel, is he still, let's see. General Counsel, I know you had a chance to do a survey of several institutions in the area, and most of this policy is brought forward with your office's advice and feedback. Can you give the trustees and the public a sense of what the region is doing and why are we landing here with this particular set of recommendations?
No, thank you very much, Board President Bettis. And again, with the guidance and direction that's been provided to our office to provide this. Again, I just wanted to echo what the deputy indicated. Obviously, a few weeks ago or a month ago, frankly, at this point, we had provided extensive information relative to mandatory vaccinations. And again, I would just echo, what the deputy has indicated. This deals with folks that are entering into our facilities. Again, this is consistent also with the UC approach in terms of people entering into premises. And again, I think that's an important point because that also then brings into health and safety aspects in terms of offices and workspace and classrooms. And I think that's an important distinction. Again, what we are ensuring is that when individuals are accessing our buildings, our classrooms and libraries, that there are these two matters that are taking place. Either there is proof of vaccination or there is testing. Again, these are also supported by EOC requirements. This has been something that entities have the ability to do. But again, to your point, Board President, there are many institutions that are speaking of or looking at mandatory vaccinations. That's not the approach that we're taking here. We're ensuring that when folks enter into our facilities, our buildings, that this protocol is followed. And again, I think that we appreciate the direction and obviously always happy to answer questions, but I think both of those options have been thoroughly researched, and this is the policy that's before the board today for their consideration and decision.
General Counsel, can you compare this policy to the actions taken by other community colleges in the region, other districts in the region?
You know, and again, we've talked to some of our colleagues. I think and again, I'm not speaking in any way negative, it's just from a comparative standpoint. I think other districts and other colleges have gone to more of a resolution approach in terms of asking, you know, that certain things be done. I think it goes back to the previous conversation that we're speaking of. Right after the description of the policy is the violation of this board policy and the ramifications of such. Again, what is before the board is something that is enforceable, that if in fact there is a violation, there will be an action taken. What I also think that this board has responsibly done in terms of this policy is that all of this is going to be negotiated with our labor partners. But the discipline aspect is actually one of the most important reasons in terms of having conversations with our labor partners in terms of making sure that that is all discussed. But I think that's a difference, President Bettis. I can't speak to you know, everyone. Sometimes there's an announcement made and you actually can't find the policy. But many times, again, it is very important. And our Personnel Commission rule actually requires a board policy to be in place in order for something to be enforceable. And that is the approach taken if in fact it is the board's will to actually have a policy that is enforceable.
Okay, thank you, General Counsel. And let me take the opportunity. Was there any other thing, anybody else to comment from the staff perspective, Chancellor?
No, I believe that is it then. In consideration, after the board makes its comments, we will have to suspend the board rule again, should you decide to act on this.
So what I'd like to do, colleagues, is go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to make a comment. Again, we'll run this vote similar to the first board policy change that we made, which is the suspending of the rules, and then a subsequent vote here. But we'll take this opportunity to make comments and provide feedback here. So let me go through first, Trustee Bona. Questions, comments?
No.
Okay. Next, Trustee Vella.
Yes, I just want to thank staff and you know, the Chancellor and your leadership, President Bettis. But I do want to say that like you know, the other policy, I do want to make sure that this is something we need to, it's urgent, we need to adopt now. But I do want to also receive reports after we hopefully pass this today that would in fact you know, take some of the student trustees comments, would also like to look at the possibility of having every single campus have testing and vaccine availability. We've been funding community clinics at each of our campuses, as well as the wonderful relationship that our advocates, that a lot of our staff are currently involved in with the County of Los Angeles. We know we've already opened up our campuses for both vaccine and for testing sites. And so I would really like for that to be something we work on immediately if we were to pass this. And I think, you know, I enjoy, again, those relationships that we've built with the state, with the federal government, with the county. And then furthermore, you know, if we can't put this as part of the motion today because we're trying to pass a motion and we can't amend this board policy now to do that, and I don't know if it's necessary, probably not. I just want to make sure that that is something very critical. We don't want any excuses of, you know, our students or faculty saying that they don't have access to either. And especially as the testing ramps up and it becomes part of our program, you know, for this fall with both our students and faculty. So I really, really, again, want to make sure with my vote that, you know, I'm able to let you all know what I expect from this program moving forward. And then, you know, again, some of the concerns that we've heard from some of our speakers today from our faculty. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. And I saw the Deputy Chancellor and the Chancellor both nodding. This will be part of the administrative procedure and part of the follow-up. Definitely, it was part of the presentation, but critical and important to have those elements included here in that conversation. So let's see, next here, let me jump over to Student Trustee. Let me get you since you're at the top of my chart right now.
Thank you. So yes, I want to echo what Trustee Vela said. Accessibility, I think that it's very important that we have vaccine and testing on all of our campuses. Also ensuring that we have some on, like, you know, how ELAC has another campus, we have the Southgate campus. So ensuring both of our campuses, the main campus and other campuses have testing so that to make the commute and the accessibility easier for our students and our faculty. And I have a question in terms of testing. So I know that Dr. Nish reread the policy for us, and it's very clear that testing will be required. Testing or proof of vaccination will be required to enter any of our buildings. But is that going to be testing from building to building, or is it going to be testing only when you get on campus, just in terms of being able to trace? I think that that would make it a lot easier and a lot safer for our students and our faculty if we are testing building to building, because you do come in contact with a lot of other students. I'm sure that this is something that you might have thought about already, but I would just like to see, you know, I would just like to get clarification on that. And another thing would be in terms of supporting our students, sometimes when you get, in terms of supporting our students with accessibility as well, having flexible times for our students to receive the vaccine, and having it during class hours as well. Maybe if we could, there could be a certain exemption for if a student can only has the allotted time to go get their vaccine, maybe during a class hour, they can make the appointment and go, and they can be excused for that day, just to make it more accessible for our students who might be full-time, might have families, might be working and cannot come and get the vaccine on their free time. And being on campus for classes the only times they are on campus, because for many of our students it is a large commute. I know a few students that go to LACCD and it's 3 buses there and 3 buses home. So ensuring that our students have the flexibility of hours while they are on campus to get their vaccine is extremely important, especially if we are going to be requiring it. And supporting our students. If our students receive the vaccine and receive any kind of reaction, maybe fatigue or would it be that we allow our students the time to rest and maybe give them a day or two if they have any kind of reaction, as many of the board is vaccinated. I am vaccinated. Many students I know are vaccinated, and they did deal with fatigue, or some of them did have a reaction. So we want to ensure that we are supporting our students, and if we are requiring them to get the vaccine, then that makes them fatigued or something. They have to go home and they can't miss class, or maybe they miss a deadline on an assignment that I believe that we must allow them the leniency to make it up, or give them, you know, a day of, okay, here's my proof that I got my vaccine. I feel fatigued. Can I be excused for the day? Because I think one of the big fears and one of the reasons that many of our students have not chosen to get the vaccine is because, you know, they have families, they have work, they have, you know, if they're taking summer classes, and then when we're going to be full time, it can really lessen the nervousness and the pile of work that they have on top of them if we allow them the leniency to, if you feel fatigued, okay, it's fine. You don't have to worry about class today when you might be dealing with family and other work outside of school. So I just want to echo that. So accessibility and support for our students, I think, is something that we must really highlight, because I'm very much in support of vaccination and testing, but we have to ensure that we are supporting our students the way that they would like to be supported when we are requiring things of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Student Trustee. Appreciate the comments there. Next, did I get you, Trustee Henderson, yet?
You did not, but I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, Trustee.
Thank you.
Next, Trustee Hoffman. Trustee Hoffman.
I got the sense you're trying to avoid me, President Barris.
I'm not avoiding anybody.
So probably 50% of you are going to hate me and maybe 50% of you are going to love me. I really strongly feel that we should make vaccination as a condition of employment. I know that's bigger than what this policy says, but that's just, I think that should be the ultimate goal. And that's, I feel very strongly about that. And thank you, Student Trustee Martinez, you did bring up some very good points. And we're all talking about access to testing, access to vaccines. You know, I'm not so sure that access is the entire problem. I mean, they're doing vaccines and testing at the McDonald's on my corner. And I know that all of our 9 campuses are doing testing and vaccinations and offering incentives, and we should continue to do that. I'm concerned that this policy is an either or. So either you show proof that you've been vaccinated or you need to be tested once a week. And I really want to thank all of the public speakers, because I was thinking to myself, how does that help to reduce COVID when you're only testing those who are negative, when or those who are not vaccinated, when we've already seen that vaccinated people carry just as much viral load as unvaccinated if they're exposed. So if we're going to implement testing, then I think everyone needs to be tested. And so thank you for those comments, because I was thinking that very thing myself. You know, testing students and vaccinating students and tracking all of that is going to take a while to probably get implemented. But I think that, you know, we have procedures in place very easily for employees. Employees right now have to be TB tested. And you know what? That started off with a jab in the arm, and years later now it's just a simple screening. So I would like to see a bolder policy. I'm worried about, and I've already expressed this with the mask mandate. I'm worried about the spread. I'm worried about testing and then the lag of notifying, because, you know, we're a big district. So I guess I would like to see a little bit more of what's going to be in place in terms of how the notification is going to work and how the testing is going to work. Are people that are unvaccinated every week going to be notified, okay, you need to go and get your test at this day, at this time? So I think a little more information would be necessary. I'm going to support the policy because it's a step in the right direction. But I really think that this board needs to take that bold step forward and say, and I know nobody else is doing this, but we can be the first ones to say, we're going to make this a condition of employment, and we're going to make sure that our students are vaccinated also. And I bet in the future, enrollment will grow when people feel safe to come onto our campuses.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Hoffman. Next, let me go over to Trustee Moreno.
Yes, thank you. I mean, the opposite view of my fellow board member. I have a question though for General Counsel, and I wasn't clear about the response. Are we the first to do this? I think that's what you said. I'm not clear. When they asked you whether or not other community colleges were implementing such a policy, could you reiterate what you said? I thought you mentioned that they were addressing this as a resolution as opposed to our effort in making this a hard and fast policy with disciplinary authority. Could you reiterate what you said?
Yes, Trustee Moreno, no, thank you very much for that question. I have not, most of the community colleges that I'm aware of, and I can't say I know every single policy, have done this via resolution. In fact, Los Rios yesterday passed a resolution to authorize a policy. So yes, Trustee Moreno, I've not seen an example yet of a community college that has adopted a policy. I will say that the UCs have adopted a policy. So that is different. The CSUs have announced that they will adopt a policy. The UCs actually do have a policy. So I hope that helps, Trustee Moreno. I don't want to say that I know every single community college, but those are the ones that I am aware of.
Thank you, though. I think what I'm concerned about is we are already in the disastrous condition of one of the lowest decline, or the rapid decline in enrollment ever in the district's history. I think we're going to accelerate it by virtue of this policy. Unlike some other board members, I believe that students will be looking around for that institution that's easier to get to and live in. I don't believe this is going to assist their shopping, irrespective of the view that somehow they'll feel safer. I am concerned about the fact that if you get a vaccination, it's meaningless because you have to go through the same process everyone else does. So why get the vaccination? Certainly is not a way of motivating people to get the vaccination. I do think, though, I would like to see this really given a little bit more thought and a little bit more information. The science is changing daily with regard to this. We are getting more and more information about the variant. Matter of fact, there's no test for the variant. There's an assumption, I guess, that if there's a variant, then you get COVID. It must be the variant, but there is no test for the variant. So it's really kind of up in the air. I think we maybe go too far in trying to address this issue based upon some, I think, erroneous information right now. I am concerned about everyone's security and safety. As you well know, I am suffering from a variety of respiratory issues. But I do believe also we have to be rational and we have to be balanced. We have to recognize there are negative implications from whatever action we take. There may be some positives. However, the reality is that we're dealing with a population of students who might find it more appropriate to attend a school that doesn't require all these hurdles. I believe that we've gone, in the first resolution, we dealt what we need to deal with. I believe this resolution may be too far. I wouldn't support it as stated, but again, I'm not the majority. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Fong, did I get you yet?
Thank you so much, President Perez, and thank you so much to all my colleagues for their comments. And thank you to all the speakers who spoke earlier today. You know, for the health and safety of our employees, our students, and our organization, and to echo Trustee Vella's comments about the community clinics that are in partnership with us, Via Care, St. John's, all the different agencies, and all the partnerships with the county. For this policy, I support this policy. And I think we also need to ensure that there's easy access to testing, easy access to vaccinations. Student Trustee Martinez echoed those concerns. Our students may be busy, they may have family obligations. So let's do as much as possible to ensure that we have access for our students and for our employees to get easily vaccinated on campus. And would love to see mobile testing sites on multiple places within the campus as well, just to make it as easy as possible for our organization, for our students, faculty, staff, and administrators, and to testing as well, to have that really readily accessible, but really to encourage and to continue to incentivize vaccinations. I've heard a number of media buys on various radio stations across LA, and so thank you and kudos to everyone who's been pushing LACCD students to get vaccinated. And let's continue to push these partnerships with the county, with all our community health clinics, to ensure that our campuses are safe and to have a really high vaccination rate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee. I see a virtual hand from Trustee Vella. Did you have an additional comment, Trustee?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. I'm really concerned about the data that's recently coming out in regards to vaccinated people. Breakthrough cases are climbing in the county. These are people who've had the vaccine maybe in March and April, are becoming positive and actually 14% in LA County of our hospitalized, this is as of this morning in the LA Times, are people who were vaccinated in our hospitals. Most of these people are over 65, diabetic, high blood pressure, asthmatic. How are we going to deal with that as we, will move forward with this policy? Is this the right time to add that? As Ms. Hoffman said, that even vaccinated people need to get regularly tested. When are we dealing with that? LAUSD is going to implement it as of this week. What are we going to do with that?
Deputy Chancellor, I know I was in seeing the LAUSD policy. LAUSD also deals with the student population that is less than 12 years old and do not have access to a vaccine. And it was per CDC recommendations that that mandate was made there. In our district, virtually every single person that comes to that works for us or that is a student of our district is eligible to receive a vaccine. And so lots of the conversations revolved around there. But Deputy Chancellor, if you wanted to sort of respond generally quickly how that came up and why that was the choice that was made.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Veras. That really is quite a bit what's driving the LAUSD decision. They've got a large number of their students that cannot be vaccinated. They're not eligible for the vaccination. And of course, then the CDC advice. So there are some different protocols for K-12s than there are for institutions of higher education. And so we've been pretty much sticking to those protocols for institutions of higher education. And the county has really pushed us to push vaccination since literally every one of our students is eligible. And of course, all of our employees should be eligible unless there's a medical condition. You are correct, Trustee Vella, that we are watching breakthrough infections. However, we do still hold to the county advice that those that are vaccinated tend to have a much lesser experience if they do get the infection. We are watching the science and we are watching where the county is going to go. In fact, we are going to have a meeting this Friday afternoon. It will be the next telebriefing for institutions of higher education. And many of the questions that you've asked, Trustee Vella, are exactly the questions that we're going to be addressing to the county health officers. Because as this situation is changing rapidly, we'd like to understand if they're going to give us recommendations or in fact requirements that may impact us. And everything that you've talked about can be incorporated into the administrative procedures that would support this policy. The policy was meant to be broad so that the procedures could change rapidly as the situation changes.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you so much. And I really need this monitored. Several of my family members were vaccinated in March and April and have had breakthrough cases, mainly out here due to their children giving them the virus in their homes. And so I'm very concerned. It's happened to at least 3 homes in the east side here that I'm aware of. So, I think it's only a matter of time that this might, continue to be a trend. So thank you, and please keep us posted.
Okay, thank you. Next, I see Trustee Wella.
Yes, thank you. Trustee Vella brought up something very important. Those who don't know, he's our science trustee. Correct, Trustee Vella? And the breakthrough component, and I absolutely agree with the actions that we've taken today. I do think, though, if we go to March of 2020, within, I remember that meeting at Trade Tech. About 80% of everyone kind of doubted that within, or didn't even believe that within 3 weeks we'd be at shutdown, right? We don't know whether these variants, whether there'll be variants of variants. We'll go from the Delta variant to the Alpha variant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We just don't know because of where it's going. That being said, I do think, and maybe, I mean, this has been said, but maybe a different angle, is that maybe we should be preparing a protocol 2 level if we don't have it already, meaning if we see certain things triggered, then the outside mandate then would trigger. And I'm not saying for it to come, to deal with this right now. I'm saying that if we do see variants and they are hitting a certain percentage, so that we don't have to think about it, as trustees, we've already thought about it, right? And it could be that it goes from 14 to 25 or the number within our district, but we should have the component already ready to go. And let me just say, I'm one of the ones who was very concerned about be giving nothing specific about this chancellor, but any chancellor too much authority. But I would actually be in favor of giving the chancellor authority to trigger that protocol to update if what Trustee Vela, which actually seems more likely than not. I'm not looking for that. So it's a little different twist on what Trustee Hoffman is saying. It doesn't affect what we're doing right now, but it does. But I think we should give our administration the direction to prepare that, because I'm 50-50 on that. We may actually need to mandate it in the next few months, depending on where things go.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Buelna. Colleagues, I also want to remind you, these are living, breathing documents. These are policies that we have 2 meetings a month. We can also exercise emergency meetings if it reaches the levels that some of you have mentioned here. And that's not at all out of the realm of possibility and willingness. I think we all have strong concerns expressed in a few different ways, but we have some options on the table. I think the general perspective of this board policy is obviously there's a component of enforcement that very few resolutions and actions by other neighboring districts have not incorporated into theirs, but at the same time, it's broad enough for the chancellor, the EOC, our staff, our human resources department to be able to make changes on the fly. We are, as a board, we are not day-to-day administrators in this district. They are. We had to provide a policy that gave some parameters and some abilities to go out and do this work with our daily workforce. But certainly we have the opportunity to come back to the table, whether it's at our second meeting of the month that is agendized as a regular board meeting where we can adapt policies, or if we need to go to the point of emergency meetings with and Mr. Prieto will walk, and whoever on the general counsel side is there will walk us through the whole procedures if it's absolutely necessary to go ahead and take those kinds of actions. So next I had student trustee Martinez and trustee Hoffman, and by order of the way you raised your hand.
Thank you, Trustee Bettis. So just reiterating a question that I had when I made my comments is in terms of testing, is the testing going to be building to building, or is it just going to be when you initially enter our campus? And just to echo what Trustee Hoffman and I believe Trustee Vela has said, is ensuring that even the vaccinated are tested. So yes, I'd just like to know, how are we going about testing? Just to ensure that in terms of tracing, it'll be easier, and a student's not going to be infected and going around campus and we're unaware.
If I may jump in, Mr. Veres, members of the board, just at first blush, student trustee Martinez, the building to building appears to me, to the ear and to the practice, to be impractical, if not impossible to gauge. I understand the sentiment. We'll move that forward. We'll take a close look at it. But in the implementation, at first blush, that seems to be because of the number of times that students move from place to place. I understand the intent of what you're sharing, but that sounds to be maybe something that we couldn't practically do. But again, not to dismiss your very insightful comment, but we'll look at it.
Okay, just to add a comment as well, is if I understand the impracticality of it, now that you bring it up for building to building, but could we then maybe look at doing it in our high traffic buildings? So in our cafeteria, in our gymnasiums, in our libraries, and in our most high traffic buildings. So not every single building, but the buildings that we know have high traffic for our students.
Yeah, we'll look at all this. Your comments are very well placed, and we'll look at it all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Hoffman.
Yeah, thank you, President Veras. I just have one more sort of question and comment. And I think the reason why we're spending so much time on this is because, we're kind of moving toward coming back to campus, right? And my question is around the child development centers, because I have heard of cases where little children have passed the virus on to their family members and others. And if we are not mandating and we're just requiring proof of vaccination, otherwise testing, what do we do? And maybe there are stricter rules for our child development centers, and I don't know if child development teachers and those who work in the centers are required to be vaccinated. My sense is they're not, but if someone has information on that, we have a lot of adjunct faculty as well. And so if they were to contract COVID and maybe not be fully insured, we'd have another problem on our hands. So just wondering, have we thought about our child development centers? I know many of them came back starting this week. And how are we addressing that issue?
If I may jump in, excuse me for interrupting, but Trustee Hoffman, there are protocols that are specific to the CDCs, the child development centers. They are stricter protocols, similar to K-12, because we have minors that cannot be vaccinated. So there are much stricter protocols. Now, they are not the folks that work in the centers. They are not mandated by a health order to be vaccinated, but your points are very well taken. We have had some of them starting to reopen, and we're in a very different situation than we were just a month ago. So I'll be happy to bring to your attention, if you give me a little bit of time, what specifically those protocols are that they're following. But they do have specific county protocols that they have to adhere to, and state protocols.
And then just as a follow-up, thank you so much, Dr. Nish. Are we going to notify the parents of the children that are in the centers that we're requiring some kind of proof of vaccination, but we're not, or testing, so that they know that there may be unvaccinated teachers and assistants with their children in the classroom? Are we going to have disclosure in that way?
That's a very good question, and I don't know that we've contemplated that, but certainly with your action this evening, that gives us the go-ahead to start doing things exactly like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So colleagues, I also want to remind you, and I think we touched on it quickly, but I did want to underscore the point that there is no vaccine that's fully approved right now by the federal government, by the CDC, by FDA, I should say. So what we have in front of us is a number of emergency approved vaccines. Certainly, that was part of a conversation about the way that we approach this, and it has been an issue to mandate vaccines under emergency protocols. Many of the cases that General Counsel mentioned and we had considered are places and schools that have put in place exceptions to the rule. And which include anything from medical to religious exemptions, which is the Indiana case. But this policy is considerate of the fact that that's there. Colleagues, I'll ask us all to reconsider how we approach this when the vaccines are FDA approved, because it puts it at a different standard. Much more similar to the standard that exists in our state at the K through 12 level for childhood vaccinations, which are FDA approved and have been mandated and are a condition upon entering K through 12. So that happened at a state level. There's also quite a bit of conversation with state elected officials to consider that type of legislation for us to have as part of an overall state process here. So with that, I'd like to move forward with our vote on this item, and I think all the comments that were made, I know the Chancellor and Deputy Chancellor and our staff are taking diligent notes, and including many of the things that are there. The hope is to get many of these things addressed and the administrative procedures that'll come forward. And of course, with all the public comments, principally from our labor partners, that we work very closely with them all together to be able to find or put together something that can be implemented and to ensure the safety of our campus communities here. So with that, colleagues, can I ask for a motion and a second to suspend board Rule 2418? And again, since I've said it before, it's about our noticing requirements, and we'll do a vote on this before we actually vote on the board policy proposed. So is there a motion and a second to waive the rule? Okay, a motion by Trustee Fong. I didn't get the second. Seconded by Trustee Wellna. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Wellna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
No.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. So waiving of the board rule passes. Now, can we take a motion on the actual board policy 2900? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Vela, seconded by Trustee Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Student Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Wellna.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
No.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. So yeah, item passes. Trustee Hoffman, I know you just raised your hand. I was actually going to make a request to you. And this is essentially from the research we did prior and the resolutions that we saw, particularly from Los Rios and Santa Monica and et cetera. I would encourage these two policies, even though you wanted some elevated components to them, I do think they are policies that should be shared with the league and with our sister districts out there to understand the route we took, because it would be great for some consistency across the board. So students can't pick and choose where apparently the policy is more lax. And if there is feedback that shows that there's policies that are stronger or that have done different kinds of things, that if we can figure out a statewide communication to know that what you get at one school is what you would get at another school. So I wanted to ask that as the league's VP and our representative to that organization. And with that, you raised your hand. So I hand the floor over to you. And then I see student trustee Martinez's hand there too.
Thank you, President Veras, and I absolutely will share these two policies with the league. And thank you for your leadership and for bringing these two policies forward. I think it's a really great step in the right direction. I think we need, as the largest community college district in the nation and the 17th largest employer in the county of Los Angeles, I think it's really important that we bring this forward. But can I have some kind of a commitment that if we see any changes in the next 2 weeks, or can we revisit policy, since we're meeting pretty much every 2 weeks now until the end of the year, in case we want to make some changes like regular testing for all employees, etc. Can we revisit every time we meet, whether there's a change or not?
I'm not sure what you mean by revisit, but I think our staff's going to be diligent about agendizing, and if there's necessary changes to be had, they would do it. But as you know, trustees, the EOC has implemented efforts without our specific direction. They've taken our broad policies and put it to work. But I think if there's some large changes, especially the enforcement pieces and board policy and board rules, I just wanted to be clear with the difference of what we did here today, which is adds an enforcement element as opposed to aspirational, as opposed to resolutions, as opposed to those kinds of things. Many of the other things that are mentioned should be things that are handled administratively through the procedure, under the EOC and the Deputy Chancellor's team. So I can say yes, but with, we'll work with it and know that some of those things can just get implemented and should be implemented.
Okay, and with testing, we're obviously going to see increases in the counts, and then we need to account for substitutes when people have to go out,
Absolutely.
on leave and whatnot. Okay, thank you so much.
And I'll say this, and the Deputy Chancellor could sort of comment to it. like our campuses have provided an opportunity to capture the COVID positive ID. Exposures tended to have come from social gatherings outside of the workplace and outside of the school sites. So we've taken learned a lot from our athletes back on, learned a lot from people returning to campus, but certainly, you know, there is something happening outside. And so when we test and we capture and go into the protocols here, they've been doing some really good work through the summer that's helping educate what we're doing here. So yes, most definitely. So student trustee.
Thank you. So I'd just like to just reiterate a comment that I made. I'm unsure if this is something that we would then have to revisit this policy and modify it, or if this would be something that is at the discretion of the chancellor. But just as I said before, ensuring that we are supporting students if they do have a reaction to the COVID vaccine, allowing students the time to rest, and then allowing them the opportunity to make up any assignments. If we could have that as a resolution or a policy, just to ensure that we can enforce it with the faculty and staff to have students feel more comfortable and show that they are being supported and lessen the worries and stress that they might have aside from all the other duties that they have on top of a global pandemic. So unsure if that is something we would then have to modify this policy for, create another resolution for, something that would be at the discretion of the chancellor. But this is something that would greatly benefit the students. So thank you.
Can I chime in, Mr. President?
Yes, Chancellor.
Yes, to address the student trustees' direct concern. Now, there's not a need to modify this policy for exactly what you were stating. However, we would need to discuss that with our academic colleagues with respect to our existing academic policies, because that is a classroom discussion and classroom management discussion. But so your interest is noted, and we'll begin those conversations to accommodate our students like we did before. You may recall that we gave extra time for students, extra accommodations, extra vigilance, if you will, both for the protection and support of student academic progress. So your points are well taken, and we'll do what we can in consultation with our faculty colleagues.
Thank you so much, Chancellor.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. So the items passed. Now we're moving on to Chancellor report. Chancellor?
Yes,
I think we've had a good dialogue here. So I know we received your written report. So
yes,
if you condense this one, we'd all appreciate it.
You got it. We'll go very quickly here. Let me ask Crystal to assist with the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. Please, next slide. Here's what I'll cover today very briefly. We do have 2 presentations embedded, items 4 and 5, and I'll go very quickly through items 1 through 3. Next slide, please. I'll again commend your reading to the Chancellor's Monthly. The board has received that, and members of the public can look at the Chancellor's webpage, and we have posted this monthly month that covers our district status related to COVID-19, our enrollment and marketing activities, including what the local area is doing. And you will see that we're all down in enrollment. Updates on how well we have done with the Foundation for Los Angeles Community Colleges here. And I will say that we hit the 600 student mark for those who are taking advantage of the incentives to get vaccinated. We hit that per the report from Mr. Fuller. And then the various ways that we're reaching out, links to our efforts to keep our public informed, the press releases, and other ways that we're mentioning very key elements of communication, including support for our undocumented students, given the recent court ruling, as well as mentioning and underscoring the importance of the collaboration we have with Mayor Garcetti, the Mayor's Fund, in paying for up to 500 applications for DACA renewals. So just highlight just a couple of those. But again, I commend your reading to the 12-page Chancellor's report. Dr. Bolna?
Yeah, a quick question. Trustee Vettis stepped away, so I'm okay. Very quick. I just want very quickly.
Yes.
It's rarely that I notice these things that open house flyer right there.
Yes.
Very well done.
Oh, good.
I mean, normally a lot of these things look the same. I just wanted to compliment you on that particular graphic. It works very. I'm not sure who took the picture, who put it together, but they did an excellent job.
Yeah, well, our Director of Communications, William Boyer, and the graphics designer, Alex Bruno, do excellent work. So thank you. I will pass that comment along. Next slide, please. And this, we mentioned this already, but this Saturday from 9 to 1 p.m., I really thank our college presidents, our team for really pushing this information out, really welcoming in open arms, in person support, registration, enrollment fair, and consultation. I really thank our staff and faculty who are coming out this Saturday to assist families and students with their enrollment procedures. So again, a big party, open house, 9 open houses concurrent at each of our 9 colleges. So thank you all for your efforts to get the word out that we are open. Our doors are not shuttered. We've never closed, and we remain open. And that's the message we want to push out before our August 30th fall semester beginning. So we're hoping to have a good turnout. And again, welcome all members of our community to join us physically at our campuses. I won't go over this. The number is now 600 students. We mentioned all of our colleges continue offering both testing and vax clinics germane to the board policies that you've just passed. And then many are offering other additional incentives. Again, the food, gift cards, direct emergency aid for those who are vaccinated with us. So we will continue to push those out. And we thank Kaiser, their foundation, for their generous support to incentivize student vaccinations. Next slide, please. I think we've discussed this already in one way or another. I just underscore that this, to your point earlier, Trustee Hoffman, our next milestone gathering of institutions of higher education is this Friday. So we have remained incredibly vigilant, nimble, and responsive to the policy changes and recommendations for institutions of higher ed. Next slide, please. All right, so let me pitch it now. There's been considerable discussion in the previous meetings about learning loss and about how we're doing in the aftermath of the implementation of Assembly Bill 705. And so what we'd like to do is ask Dr. Corner to present some results for you as we move forward. So some data related to AB 705. And then from there, what Dr. Corner will introduce a pilot program at LA Pierce College. And we're going to ask our colleague in Math Department Chair, Eddie Churchin, to walk us through the pilot program that we have approved and supporting for implementation beginning this fall. So Dr. Corner, the floor is yours. Please walk the board through what we've seen occur with respect to our throughputs post AB 705. Dr. Corner.
Thank you, trustees. And I will go quickly and allow for questions at the end. And of course, any follow-up we can also bring up through the IESS committee with Trustee Welna. If we can go to the next slide. We've been in AB 705 implementation since fall of 2019. What we have begun doing is tracing first-time students as they enter into the math and English sequence and follow them through to completing transfer level. I want to make clear that this is a higher standard than what the state looks at, because the state doesn't start monitoring students until they attempt English and attempt math. And we have an expectation that that happens in the first year. And so we start tracking students immediately upon enrollment. What you can see is that those attempting transfer level English within the first year has almost doubled, going from 39% up to 72%. Similar results with math, where access, those attempting the transfer level math, has increased from 15% to 39.9%. We have seen the throughput, which is the number of students who complete transfer level, increase as well, with English going up from 27.7 up to 44.8. and math going from 8.8 to 21.1. I want to make clear that this is due to the diligent work of the faculty, and that if you look at the years that are being associated, you see you have some years even before AB 705. You can see that impact on the light blue bar as it shoots up, particularly with attempting transfer level math. But the faculty have been trying to come up with models to support students for years to come. If we go to the next slide, we can see some of the ethnic data in terms of disaggregation. What we see is that we have had increases across all ethnic categories, but not all ethnic categories have increased at the same rate. In our summary of data, we'll address that. But you can see that even though we have seen significant gains, as an example, African-American students going from 19% to 31%, and Latino students going from 27% to 43%, the gaps have actually widened because you can see that for the Caucasian group, they had a very strong increase there. So we have seen a mix of data in terms of equity, and this is definitely a continued focal point that I think Pierce will speak well to in terms of their pilot plan to try to assist students. If we go to the next slide, you can see the same data by ethnicity for math. You can see once again increases across all ethnic groups, but some concerns about widening gaps as we move forward. If we go to the next slide. So actions to date. The faculty have done diligent work to revise curriculum, including support integrated into the curriculum where there's lab classes and other supports built into the curriculum they offer. The placement models have been revised to make sure that students are being placed per the AB 705 guidelines. And we even have a full integration where the high school data from the students automatically goes into our system for those new graduates so that we can use that as part of the placement model. We have additional college and online tutoring support in the amounts of over $1 million a year provided at the district level, in addition to all those that the colleges are approving. And we have a regular meeting of an AB 705 task force so that we make sure that those that are on the ground can provide feedback to how we might be able to improve. In terms of the data, we do see the percentage of first-time students attempting transfer level math and English increasing dramatically. We see the percentage of first-time students successfully completing transfer level English and math increasing over time. But as we had indicated before, we do see remaining equity gaps. We have improved across all ethnic categories, but the gaps have not closed in the way that we would want them to. And so that is a continued focal point in the next stage of our implementation of AB 705 and addressing learning loss. There were requests from the District Academic Senate to have an opportunity for students to take more than one level below transfer. And the Chancellor asked for any proposals to that end. And what we got was a proposal from Pierce College that addressed the situation quite perfectly. It had a thorough understanding of exactly what it would take to work with students beyond the classroom. It focused not just on the general student body or a placement model, but instead focused on those who had already demonstrated to be that they were struggling with the direct placement and transfer, and has a minimal set of offerings to really make sure that we can try this out and assess the impact and the success of the program. What I've greatly valued from Pierce College is that their math department has an excellent approach. They've been looking at new and innovative ways for addressing math for quite some years, including their Statway that they're the leader in the nation on. And they have a mindset that builds in the AB 705 concepts and the student-focused concepts into their curriculum development. And so we did receive a plan from Pierce, and here today we have the department chair from the math department at Pierce College, Eddie, and I will pass off to you, sir. Eddie, you may still be on mute.
still on mute. Yes, I am. I sure am. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Corner. I should be unmuted now. Appreciate the invite. I'm going to take myself off camera because I'm traveling, but I hope you all could still hear me. I just wanted to say that everything Ryan said is absolutely true locally at Pierce College as well, data-wise. We're definitely seeing improvement in the throughput rates. This is exactly the spirit of AB 705, and the implementation has gone as smooth as it could go under COVID-19. What could a global pandemic possibly do to get in the way, right? But it's the spirit of student success that we capture, and our instructors are working hard to get through. The proposal that also was a part of the AB 705 task force that Vice Chancellor Corner and I co-chair was a way to address the learning loss situation that he spoke of, that the Academic Senate also addressed, and also managed to find a way to support our students in those segregated groups that he spoke about that are still having troubles. They're still struggling with some of the courses under the 705 umbrella and sequence that we designed. So when Pierce College was designing that sequence, we in particular focused on the creation of a new course, Math 75, that combined some algebraic and arithmetic topics together to address the needs of those that still just could not get through with our Math 134 intermediate and beginning algebra course or our Statway pathway. We used a lot of study skills in those courses. We are not under the belief that offering just the course itself will get the help that all students need, but it's the intervention from all student services and the collaborative effort across campus that really creates that student success. So we wanted to capture that in the Math Success Academy program. We have the Math 75 course as a component. And as I mentioned, we're working with our student services, our tutoring department. We're working with our counseling department. We're working with financial aid. We're working with the peer-to-peer mentor program to ensure that the students are aware of all the great services the college has to offer, and specifically how those services can be put together to help them with their math and study skills. We know at that level, study skills are everything. Knowing how to time manage, how to note take, how to prepare for an exam, how to truly take advantage of professor office hours. Those are the things that make you successful. So we want to instill that into our student body, and we want to make sure that they carry those skills forward in the next math class so they continue to be successful. I don't know if we still have in the room, there are a couple of math instructors, Howie Schwesky and Katrina Wano, if they could raise their hand so that Crystal might be able to identify them if they're still around. They could tell you a little more. They're part of the pilot. They'll be teaching those sections of Math 75. But basically, I could speak to it if they're not around. So do we still have them in the room, Crystal?
No, sir, they're not in the room.
Okay. Well, I know that some of the agenda items were moved around, so I could speak to the work that they've been doing along with a group of other folks. But essentially, we've been planning out the schedule for the courses for the course Math 75 and incorporating workshops at the Center for Academic Success, our tutoring space on campus, working with our math counseling liaison to ensure that counseling will be attending some courses and providing advice on the math sequence beyond 75 and things of that nature. One other thing that I forgot to mention earlier that I do want to make everyone aware of, nobody places into this course. This is a completely voluntary course under AB 705. We don't intend to ever scale or grow the number of sections to no more than 4 or 5 probably in the future. We just know that there's a part of the population that still has the need for that type of material, and especially focus on those study skills. So I'll wrap up there. If Vice Chancellor Corner wants to add more, feel free.
No, I just want to thank Eddie and his math department for putting in the work to put together a proposal that really addresses the whole student, both inside and outside of the classroom, and say that I know the Chancellor is open to additional proposals and innovations so that we can find effective models that address the learning loss as we see it come forward. Thank you, and Chancellor, I will pass back to you.
So, Mr. Vettis, that completes our presentations under the Chancellor's report item, and would be open to any questions that you might have for any of the items that were presented today.
Great. Colleagues, let me ask for you to raise your virtual hand, and I'll take, it looks like we may have everybody here, but let me ask you to raise your virtual hand. We'll go by this way for this presentation. Professor Churchian, appreciate your diligence here. I remember chairing a student success committee many years back when you came to present to us, and we were talking about 705 and the sort of doggedness to stick to it. You know, it was excellent, and it's well appreciated here to hear this presentation and combine that with data that the Vice Chancellor approved. This is exactly what we were looking for and expecting, and it's great to see you stick to it. From expressing concerns to implementing is really quite wonderful to see from the Board of Trustees, from my perspective on the board here. So thank you for that. And to your colleagues also that didn't get a chance to be there, the whole Pierce team was great. Let me jump up to Trustee Vela. I see Trustee Vela, Trustee Bona, and then Trustee Hoffman, and then Trustee Moreno. We'll do it in that order. So Trustee Vela.
Thank you, President. To Professor Church. Is my internet?
Yes, sir. You might want to take camera off.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
So, just want to thank, for his tireless advocacy. Go ahead.
Trustee, let me, you're cutting out. Let me move to Trustee Bona, if you can reset and join us. Trustee Bona.
I'll take advantage of Trustee Vela's gap there to say the presentation that Eddie just did was absolutely awesome, and it's just at the highest caliber. And thank you for being that imaginative. Your opening slide, when your opening slide isn't that pretty, that means that you focused on the content and not on graphics, Eddie. And I mean that with all due respect there. I mean, just for that level of imagination, I appreciate it. And thank you. And Vice Chancellor Coroner, with regard to the report, I want to go to did the fact that you disaggregated Filipino from Asian, and let me just say, I think the disaggregation of the data is going to be very important to tell us a lot. One, why did you do it? I'm not saying, when I say that, I'm not saying in an accusatory way. I'm actually saying literally why. And what does that tell you? And does Asian not include Filipino? And with that, what groups within Asians are lower? And what's that telling us? Then I have a follow-up question.
Absolutely. So what we were using is the state roll-ups, which already separate out Filipino. That wasn't a choice that we made, but what the state does. But we have the disaggregations for all of the different ethnic subgroups, similar to what we presented with the Latino data conversation, and we have it for our API data as well, and we'd be glad to present it. We just didn't want to overwhelm the board with slides on the first go around.
Right, but that one kind of stuck out. So what? I mean, we saw that the Filipino number high, correct?
I have to pull it up, but
we were paying attention,
yes,
sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. Filipino number is high.
Okay, it's just it stood out. So I'm just, because as we're for instance, Latinos are 61% of the entire district, right? So
correct.
What, as you're doing that data disaggregation, and Asians are a large number, is that data informing us, thus the campuses, on specific what?
Yeah, Dr. Corner, let me jump in. Dr. Bona, thank you for your question. Yes, as you know, several years ago, we were part of the statewide API disaggregation data effort. And what it told us at LACCD, and we presented this to our API advisory committee that Mr. Fong can attest, that we learned that our Hmong, Laotian, Tongan, and other Pacific Islander students were not faring as well as our Chinese, Japanese, and Korean students. So because of that, LA Harbor College has a PASS program, I think it's called APASS program, that really specifically targets Pacific Islander students who are lower performing than our other Asian students. So the disaggregation has pointed a very bright light on some of our Pacific Islander students who aren't performing as well. In fact, do worse in some cases than our Latino and African American male students. So we are using the data to project and inform our practice in and outside of the classroom.
Thank you. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that the data disaggregation issue is going to play a role across all ethnic groups. Specifically if you look at the Latino community in our outreach, is the amount of indigenous languages being spoken in Mexican and Central American communities is really large within LA. So as we're like you just mentioned, within Asian communities, there are other different communities where the outreach strategies are not going to be as clear. And by the way, for those who may not know, the senior administrators at the district were given an excellent training by the census on how to use some of this data. So as we're having the conversation about education attainment levels, about outreach, I'm happy to see that disaggregation, but I think as a board, it would be helpful to see that disaggregation across the different blocks of groups, because people have this thing about homogenizing all Latinos into this thing, except there is no Latino ethnicity. There is all the subgroups and all the subgroups of the subgroups that ultimately lead into something, and that's across all groups. And we're talking about it within IESS, but it's important for the board to see that. That's why that data that you included specifically on Filipinos, it's important, and for the chancellor to tell us what's happening at Harbor, so that for not only that group, for every other group that we know or should know what to do in order to create programs to improve them. That's why I want to encourage, as much as I tell you to cut your slides, and I do it all the time, I think you'll agree, on this particular thing, I don't think you should add slides. It's content that matters. I'm not saying that your other beautiful slides don't matter in other presentations, but I'll leave that for another day. But on this, it's important.
Trustee, we would be glad to provide the additional breakdowns at all of the categorical levels.
You're the best.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Hoffman next.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Great presentation, Dr. Corner, and thank you, Professor Turchian, for spending I'm assuming you're on vacation, spending your time traveling with us at the board meeting. And thank you for that presentation. I know we had some growing pains with AB 705, and so this was encouraging. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Moreno.
Yes, Dr. Corner. Those the rates that you identified, how are those calculated? I wasn't clear. We have a declining enrollment situation. So if there are fewer students coming to us and the numbers remain the same, then your rate increases. Am I correct in that analysis? So that the number of students impacts the rate.
Well, it's always a ratio of the number of entering students and the number of successful students. So if we were looking at the raw number of successful students, we could provide that as well. Those numbers did increase all the way up until COVID, even with the enrollment changes that we saw. With COVID, which is the 2020 numbers, we did see a decreased number of students who were first-time entering students. And so you are correct that that would impact the overall number of students entering. The rate itself is always calculated the same as the number of students who complete over the total number of students who enter. But you are correct.
From that ethnic group, right. So that would have an impact on the rate. So it might give the false impression that if you have a significant increase in the rate, that's a product of actually more students, but in fact, it could be lesser number of students. So that rate is kind of, well, I don't know, like statistics tend to do for us. It depends upon how you want to interpret it. But what's important about this, now, is this data taken from the semester, fall semester data, or how are you calculating? If it's fall semester, then there has been a regular decline through that entire period. Now, I would, because we have now FTS, as I look at the data involving FTS, the district has been, capturing a lot of FTS through, what is the program we held with LA Unified at 5%?
Dual enrollment.
Is that calculated in that dual enrollment?
No, sir. So we did see actually similar numbers of entering students in all of the cohorts up until we hit fall of 20. Fall of 20 is where it declined, and actually Eddie could give some comments here as well. It's been a really interesting conversation with the task force as to how we should actually interpret the data during COVID. And I have to say those conversations have been really open and very honest that it's difficult to interpret data when you have to overlay COVID on top of it.
Well, aside from COVID, even prior to COVID, we had a decline, and the numbers were, at least the rates were indicating that there was a decline. But more importantly, I've just got to clarify something. I keep hearing this, and by now it's got to be wrong. We are not the largest in the United States now. We can't possibly be in light of the current enrollment. I think we keep claiming we're the largest district, but I think you may want to recalculate that. Perhaps Maricopa, Miami-Dade, and other districts may not have experienced a significant decline the LA Community College has been in. But maybe you could do that for me and others, so we're not publicly making that comment when in fact it's not supported by reality.
I can absolutely look into that to see how their enrollment.
How we fared, yes, compared to other districts in the United States. But I think I'm concerned about the rates, and maybe we should have the numbers, the end that you're talking about will give us a better picture of what exactly we're talking about here. In terms
We
of
can certainly do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you the raw numbers increased as well up until fall of 20.
Yes. And Mr. Moreno, I think you make a fair point about the enrollments. We'll double check that. There has been inclines commensurate throughout the state, but nation. But so we'll check on that. But what doesn't change is the service area, the 900 square miles, and the now well over 5 million residents in our service area that we're responsible for. I do believe that is the largest service area of any community college district in the country.
Right, absolutely, by a long shot.
Yeah, but your point on enrollment is well taken.
Yeah, we really are. Anyways, please.
Thank you, Trustee. You're always welcome to say one of the largest in the nation. So that'll be correct no matter what the number is. But certainly land geographic, all that stuff is all good. So okay.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee. That covers all the virtual hands. So Chancellor, thank you for the presentation. And Vice Chancellor and Professor Churchin, very much appreciate all of you being here. This is going to be a continuing item, and I'll just remind the board that when we did our mid-year retreat, this is that item we didn't get to that we wanted to put up on the agenda to have that conversation. Very important agenda item for us, and so at least this is the initial presentation and something that we'll be continuing here forward because it is that important. So thank you all. So that concludes the Chancellor report, correct? Okay. Excellent. So now we're moving on to the combined consent calendar. These are items requiring majority board motion. They were reviewed by our board officers and our staff, and the vast or the majority, or if not all of them, are usual and customary and have been vetted. Trustees, you're welcome to ask questions here, of course, and any item can be pulled. So the consent calendar, the combined consent calendar is items M1 through Z9.
Yes, and Mr. Vettis, I'll reiterate that items U2 and U3 have been pulled. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. So that's noted. Colleagues, if there was any item to be pulled, if not, then I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Hoffman. Trustee Fong, I see you itching to second that. Is that right? All right, sounds good.
Yes, I seconded it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fong. Okay, so motion by trustee Hoffman, seconded by trustee Fong. If we can have a roll call vote on these items, please.
President Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buona,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the consent calendar passes. Now we're on to the regular agenda. And we are on AA business items, AA1 through AA6. Colleagues, are there any items that require additional information? If you can please state it, and we'll have staff provide you the response here. So business items AA1 to AA6.
Should I raise my hand or can I just speak up? Are you asking us?
Go ahead and speak up. I was asking for your hands up, but go ahead and speak up.
All right. I'd like to see, I'm sorry, you said from what again? From what?
AA1 through AA6. These are the business items.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Okay, sounds good. So colleagues, I'll ask for a motion in a second for these business items.
So move.
Thank you, Trustee Fong. There's a motion there and a second by Trustee Moreno. Thank you, sir. Roll call vote there.
President Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buona,
Yes.
Trustee Fong,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
Trustee Moreno,
Yes.
Trustee Vela,
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes. Okay, that passes unanimously. Next is BB, facility items, BB1 through BB7. Colleagues, if there's an item you'd wish to have more information on or have questions about, please raise your hand or speak up.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Trustee Moreno, you have the floor.
BB1 and BB4. BB1 is the item having to deal with something I'm close to, and that is the
East LA College
nursing program at East LA College. Yeah, and I understand we're dedicating quite a bit of money to that project. I didn't see the plans. I haven't seen them since I'm not part of that committee, but I'm assuming it's where the old building was. My question is, well, is it near the old building? I don't know where it's located on campus, come think about it. But how is the nursing program? I understand the nursing program was suspended in some part, in some ways. And so right now, given the condition of the nursing program at East, here we're dedicating a building of substantial size and quite a bit of money. What is our nursing program like at East now?
Let me begin to answer that. Then if you'd like to ask Dr. Smith to pop in on the location. With respect to the nursing, it was simply that it was a recommendation of the BRN that the entering class be suspended until spring of 2022. That's the recommendation. I know that Dr. Roman has been meeting regularly with the BRN. In fact, there was a meeting today that he was on with the BRN, but the nursing program status is still solid. It was just a recommendation that the entering class be postponed until spring of 2022, until which time some curriculum updates could be in place. And they were still monitoring the passage rate for our nurses, which needs to be at least at 75%. So those were the reasons, but we do not believe at this point that there aren't any matters that the BRN has recommended that we cannot address. But that actually, you are correct, Mr. Moreno. They did recommend that we postpone the entering class, nothing to do with class year 2 that moves forward as planned, but they are recommending that we postpone the entering class until spring of 2022. Otherwise,
well, yeah, that's a very serious, although we tend to make light of it, but that's a very serious action. And I've not heard them do that in any other institution, but perhaps they may have. But obviously, my concern is that we're spending a whole lot of money on a program that might be may not be with us if this continues.
Well, we plan for the program to be with us for a long period of time. East LA College nursing college students have been a very important part of providing healthcare and first line responders for a very long period of time. And
You're
it is our
preaching to the
absolute
choir. You're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, I understand. Mr. Moreno, we are dedicated and committed to a strong nursing school at East LA College. Dr. Smith, can you comment on the location that Mr. Moreno asked?
Yes, it will be the same site. We're going to demolish the old nursing building.
All right, thank you.
With a new one. And then the completion of this project probably looks like the third quarter of 2023. So we're a couple of years out.
Oh, it's still, that's pretty quickly, really, when you think about it, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee, you mentioned item BB4.
Yes,
it
is a, I don't fully understand, but this is item 4. We talk about field turf for the culinary arts department. I thought field turf were those people who put together all those. I know we brought the field in our stadium, but I don't understand what field turf has to do with culinary arts.
Trustee, and I'll leave it to Dr. Smith, but Trustee, this is essentially a new building that's been opened, and I guess I would call it maybe the patio. It opens out to a kind of lawn, which the field turf is adjacent to. But this is a building that we haven't been in yet as trustees. It's a brand new building and really quite attractive building, but there's a turf space adjacent to the culinary arts.
Is that what they're talking about?
Dr. Smith?
Yes, that is the adjacent turf that it's new. It's an all-purpose turf for a variety of activities that the campus will hold, and this will ensure the longevity and the maintenance of that turf. So that's what we're purchasing this equipment for.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
that completes my concerns.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Trustee Moreno. Any other questions on the facility items? Okay, seeing none, let me ask for a motion and a second to approve these items.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Buona, seconded by Trustee Moreno. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Martinez, advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Buona. Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the remaining recommendation from the Chancellor, which is the approval of Board Policies Chapter 2. Colleagues, I just wanted to remind you that that this was our comprehensive update to get them into board docs to be consistent with sort of recommendations from the league and all conversations across the board. So we've already done 2800 and 2900, but this is the remaining sets of Chapter 2 that are there. So colleagues, any questions on this?
Trustee Vettis, do you mind if I give
Absolutely,
just 5 seconds?
Trustee,
Right.
I think Trustee Buona has taken a lead and has dug deep into lots of these. So Trustee Buona.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that when folks asked us that we review these, we did painstakingly, and I'll rephrase the word painstakingly, going through them to make sure that that we're good with them. In fact, we've held them up to make sure that they explain it. Fully, we have gone through these policies, and it's also important for staff to know, which is one of the reasons we did it. And Trustee Fong, remember when you chaired ISS, basically said, don't throw all these policies out us, ask us to approve them. We actually want to see them because at some point we're going to be judged on this, and that's one of the reasons I at least wanted to make this statement that we absolutely have. So Trustee Vettis, Trustee Fong, we have painstakingly. So for the record, other trustees need to do this next time.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Buona, and again, much appreciation to the Deputy Chancellor and Dr. Corner and Kevin Jetter and his team for really helping us marshal these things forward for our review here. So with that, colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve this item? So motion by trustee, I'm sorry, who was the trustee Bona and then trustee Fong?
Yeah.
And roll call vote, please.
Trustee Martinez advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Bona.
Yes.
Trustee Fong.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Moreno.
Yes.
Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Next, we're on to DDD, notices, reports, and informatives. There are two items here, notice of board rule revisions, chapter 10, article 3, and a notice for approval of board policies, chapter 2. These are the remaining items in those areas and continuing from the dialogue we just had. So we'll deem them received and read by the board. Next, we'll move on to item EE, announcements and indications of future proposed actions by members of the Board of Trustees. Are there any comments here, colleagues?
I have one.
Trustee Bona?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, I'm not sure if you hit the drums, but yeah, the drum beat on foundations, you know, and I think, you know, I've mentioned I was disturbed by the LACCD Foundation issue with regard to the swap meet. We need to look into specifically what happened. I've discussed it offline in part with Trustee Vettis and Chancellor Rodriguez. I'll leave it there.
Yes, and for the colleagues who didn't get a chance to see it, it was in the LA Times over the last few days in comment to the swap meet. So I think it's a continuing dialogue that we'll have at a later date. So so thank you, Trustee Bona, and we'll figure out what part of our meetings coming up that'll have a more robust discussion on that request. So Trustee Henderson, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, President Veras. I just wanted to remind everyone that AAOI is hosting its annual Black to School event at West LA College on September 8th from 3 to 5 p.m.
In person?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Trustee, for that. Any other reports here? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to public comments on items that were not on the agenda. Lupa, I believe I saw 2 that were listed. Are those individuals still here in the meeting?
We're going to look for them right now, but there is 4.
There's 4. Okay.
Yeah. We have Jacqueline Rodriguez, Carla Lopez Valdez, and David Hale. So the first 3, we'll start pulling them in right now, looking for them. Please raise your hand if you're the audience, make it easier for us. Thank you. And
I did read a notice earlier about criticizing public employees and focus your comments. But for those individuals that are coming in, I see 2 of them now. If you can keep your comments to 2 minutes, that would be wonderful. So I see Jackie Rodriguez. Jackie.
Maybe
there, Jackie. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry,
Jackie,
the connection is very bad.
Yeah. Jackie, can we encourage you to try us again, log in, log out, your connection's so much so that we can't hear you. So let's move on to David Hill, and we'll keep an eye on Jackie coming back to the meeting.
Yeah, hi, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'd also like to say thank you to the Chancellor, as well as the majority of the board who voted on the yes for the items 2800 as well as 2900. So what I would like to speak with you all about today and hope that you will be in support of is class caps, but also examining class caps at the local level, which I think is going to be really important to support the institutions based on what students want and also the needs of the institution as they see fit to address the community. You know, one of the things that I was really impressed by and so thankful for, again, the majority of y'all's thoughts on those items was that you really are planning for the worst, but hoping for the best. And again, I really do appreciate that. And I think if we were to consider and be supportive of class caps, we're going to be doing that exact same thing. For me, what I notice is that space is a key concern. And if you look across the literature, the planning, et cetera, for pandemics, one of the things that's key to it is classroom management and the space that unfortunately we have to deal with. And so I'm concerned about that. I know a lot of other faculty members are concerned by that. And so again, I hope that we can get this addressed, especially for the fall. I think that also goes in line with our concern for students and also extending it out to the community. Because again, if we have outbreaks within our classroom, that affects our students, but also affects the communities that we serve. Again, I think this would also be in line with us being supportive of faculty. I know at our particular campus, because of this issue, there's a lot of loss of trust that we had built up. And that makes me sad. But I also fear the loss of talent. It's my understanding that several faculty members are considering quitting because they don't feel that something that was agreed upon is being moved forward with. And again, I think that's really sad. And when it comes to student success, I wouldn't want to see those faculty members leave. And then beyond that, I also want to be supportive of those who support our institutions, for the maintenance workers, for the staff members who have to come in. I think that if we take our time moving into the fall, if that's something that we consider, again, with class caps, we allow ourselves to ease in to a situation that, again, hopefully will be better once we get to the spring. But lastly, in terms of branding and the long-term goal and where we want to be with enrollment, I just don't want to have a promise that we can't meet if things were to shift. And so again, I really do hope that we can plan for the worst and hope for the best when it comes to the class caps. Thank you once again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Did we get a chance to see Jackie come back in? I'm sorry.
Yes, she did, but I think she left again. Let me see. Oh, no, she's here. Jackie, you're here. 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was having internet issues, but good afternoon, Chancellor Rodriguez and members of the board. My name is Jackie Rodriguez, and I am the Event and Outreach Manager for the Campaign for College Opportunity, where we work to ensure all California students have an equal opportunity to attend and succeed in college. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Chancellor Rodriguez. Your leadership and efforts in strive to improve community college students has not gone unnoticed. We applaud your steady and unwavering commitment to student success and closing racial equity gaps and ensuring equitable placement is faithfully implemented. It is the responsibility of our district administrators, our campus department chairs, and our faculty to support student success and offer access to the courses that give students the best chance at achieving their educational goals. The COVID-19 pandemic forced many students to pause their studies. However, for those students making the critical decision to return this year, a degree has become even more valuable. We know that Californians with a college degree we're in many ways insulated with employment and poverty. A college degree insulated people from virus exposure and subpar health services. That is why, as students return to LACCD's 9 campuses, there is an urgency to continue to implement best practices to accelerate student success, and that means AB 705. We cannot afford to regress to the pre-AB 705 status quo, where 90% of Black students and 80% of Latinx students were placed into remedial courses, and only a quarter of those students would go on to a degree. As stewards of the district, we ask that the Board of Trustees to request regular implementation updates on AB 705 to be presented during the board's public meeting. This will ensure we all have the most up-to-date information on our district's progress, how it compares to the state, and how the district can be best supported to continue strong implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, perfect. Was there any other?
Yeah, President Veras, I know I didn't have great connection. Can you hear me now?
You cut out just a little bit, but absolutely, we'll come back. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you on the notices and announcements. Well, let me do this, Trustee Vella. Let me just make sure that there's no other public comment, so I can close that, and then we'll go ahead and reopen announcements and indications of future proposed action. So, any other public comments?
We have Fanny Garcia and Carla Lopez Valdez. I think, but we couldn't find them, so they're not here. So
okay,
we're done.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So we'll close that section, and then colleagues will open up the announcements. And then Trustee Vella, you have the floor. Trustee Vella?
Yeah, never mind.
Okay. Okay, got you. Thank you, Trustee. Next, we'll move on to report of actions taken in closed session. I'm going to indicate the Brown Act requires that certain matters determined in closed session be reported during the public session that follows. The board took no further actions that the Board Act requires to be reported. And so with that, that brings us to adjournment. Colleagues, if there's no objections, we'll stand adjourned in this meeting. Thank you so much, Trustee Hoffman. Appreciate sending our policy mandates and get some consistent, advocate for consistency. I think that would be very helpful, and many of the concerns that we all had will at least be covered partially there. And then of course, there's plenty of follow-up to do with our student trustee and many other comments are there. And colleagues, I'm also for other items that wish to be agendized, by all means, reach out to Chancellor and I, and the other officers of the board are always working diligently to try to make sure these agendas work right for everybody. So with that, colleagues, I won't hold you any longer and let you get off to dinner, but thank you so much for this meeting. Appreciate this. I think some important work happened today. So thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Night.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night, and thank you all.